Now, Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Wednesday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Happy fake Valentine's holiday today. I'm a married man, I admit it. It's bogus. Buy some flowers that are going to die in a couple of days. Get out of here. Wait till tomorrow to buy your chocolates. You'll get them for 50% off. So just have a nice day. Crack open a bottle of wine, drink it, eat dinner together. That's what I do every single night already in my house. So happy Valentine's Day, Christy. I love you. So I hope everybody has a great day today and enjoy yourself. So, all right, here's the deal. Yesterday during the show, we had the crazy out of nowhere tweet from Jordan Schultz. Jordan Schultz covers all sorts of stuff. I think mainly the NFL, but he's also been an NBA guy. He does stuff for Bleacher Report. And he spoke with Hassan Reddick. If you remember, Super Bowl Sunday, it comes out that the Eagles granted permission for Hassan Reddick to seek a trade. And everybody's initial thought was, damn, he wants to get paid. The Eagles are going to pay him, so he's upset. He's demanding a trade, right? It's very interesting how well Howie Roseman can manipulate our minds. Because Howie Roseman, and I've brought up this story multiple times. There was an article in The Athletic years ago. This was the demise of the Eagles part one, when it was Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz, and Carson's on his way out. Doug gets fired. There was an article done on The Athletic. I believe it was Zach Berman, Sheil Kapati, and Bo Wolf. The trio of them put together this big story on The Athletic about the issues inside the Eagles front office, inside NovaCare, right? The story inside NovaCare. I'm pretty sure that's when we got the story about the fat head of Carson Wentz that was in Howie Roseman's office. Like, it was just a bizarre story. And one of the parts of the story was how Howie Roseman I don't want to say manipulates, but Howie Roseman wants to be the guy that gets in front of the media for everything. He gets upset when something leaks out a way that he doesn't want it to come out. Not just the way the media member writes it, but maybe somebody else inside the front office. Maybe Alec Hallaby, right, went out there and said something, and that's not the way he wanted it said. Howie Roseman, he wants to be the one person that speaks to the media. So it comes out on Sunday that the Eagles granted Hassan Reddick permission to seek a trade. Shame on all of us at this point. Knowing how Howie Roseman operates, shame on all of us for being upset and feeling a certain type of way that Hassan Reddick seemed to want his way out of Philadelphia. So then yesterday during the show, past the midway point, we were in the 12 o'clock hour, Jordan Schultz puts out the tweet that he spoke with Hassan Reddick. And Reddick said, quote, "I would like to get an extension done here at home. At no point did I ever tell the organization I wanted to be traded. This home is for me. I was born and raised here. 2 of the most fun years playing football of my life came here. I've cherished being an Eagle." He eventually, quote, tweeted that, Hassan Reddick himself, and said that he never demanded a trade, but he also understands that it's a business. So here's the deal. Hassan Reddick wants more money. And Hassan Reddick deserves more money. 4 straight seasons of double-digit sacks. We talked about this yesterday. I had our lovely, always happy caller, Mitch from Phoenix, call in. And he, how many sacks did Reddick even have last year? And he had 11. And he said, well, it feels like he only had 5. It's because it felt that way because he didn't have a sack the last month and a half of the season. But that was also when Matt Patricia took over and started dropping him back in coverage. Right now, all of a sudden, Hassan Reddick's season turns around in a negative way when Patricia took over. He had 11 sacks, 2 of which happened in that second Cowboys game, and then nothing the rest of the season. Hassan Reddick is still an extremely talented player. I know he's 29. I know he turns 30 in September, so he'll be a young 30 to start the NFL season. The question is then, how do you want the Eagles to handle the offseason when it comes to fixing the defense? We did this topic the other day, and Connor Thomas is producing the show today. Ray is continuing his travels with the Temple women's basketball team. So I'm going to get Connor's thoughts on the roster construction later on the show. But we did a topic earlier this week about how you want Howie to fix the defense. Do you want him to swing for the fences, make the big trades, get the splashy signings, allocate a lot of your draft picks to guys that are already in the NFL, sort of what the Rams did a couple years ago. Remember, the LA Rams were in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady and the Patriots. And that's arguably one of the more boring Super Bowls that we ever watched. The Rams ended up losing, and you thought, all right, well, that might be it. Will Sean McVay be able to turn things around? They decide to get rid of Goff. They bring in Matt Stafford. they traded every pick under the sun in order to build a super team, which landed them a Super Bowl. So it wouldn't be the first time in NFL history where a team got rid of basically all their draft capital to get a bunch of proven players already, build a super team or a dream team, as we know well in the city, and try to win a Super Bowl with it. So that's one way to go about it. Or what I believe might be the smarter route, and that's to kind of maybe kick the can down the road for a season and start young, give these kids that you already have here a shot to continue to grow, really focus on the draft. I think you do trade for a player. You do sign a player. Maybe you extend a Hassan Reddick. You still need to be talented because your offense is too good to punt a season. But instead of going, splashy 7 signings, 7 new players via trade or free agency, you try to take a more patient approach. Now, the question is, whichever side of the table you're on, I was the more patient approach, which is something that I don't do. If you guys ever listen to me, I am the typical millennial. I want my money and I want it now, right? J.G. Wentworth, come on, man.
You're not going to sing it for us?
No, I'm not going to. Not yet. I am a millennial that wants things to happen right away because I don't care about 5 years from now. But I've also seen how this hasn't necessarily worked out in the Eagles' favor. Yes, they won a Super Bowl and they went downhill after that. At least they won a Super Bowl. Then they lost the Super Bowl and went downhill after that. So if you're winning, that's one thing. But if you're not, then that's another. So the question is, do you have faith, whichever side of the coin you're on, patient approach or home run signings and trades, do you trust Howie Roseman to do it? This is going to be a show about our faith in Howie Roseman because I'll be honest, I feel a certain type of way when this report comes out on Sunday and then we later find out that Hassan Reddick never demanded a trade. It's just the way Howie Roseman worded it in the media, and then we all feel a certain type of way about Hassan Reddick when it comes out Super Bowl Sunday. You're all getting your parties ready or getting ready to go to a party, going to the liquor store to bring some beer to the party. And you get that report, and you're like, damn, really? Like, this is what I got to deal with on Super Bowl Sunday? I thought I got away from the stress of the Eagles, and I need to now read this? I find it slimy, but it is a business, as Hassan Reddick points out, and Howie Roseman, whether you like him or not, has been good at it. They've won a Super Bowl. They've been back to another. They had double-digit wins again this year, even though it fell apart. I do think that was a lot of it on coaching. Do you have the faith in Howie Roseman to fix things? Now, I want to play 2 bits of audio for you in this first segment. Jeff McClain joined me yesterday, and I asked him about the approach on fixing the defense. And take a listen to what he said about how the Eagles will not go into any sort of rebuild.
I don't think Howie's ever going to be like rebuilding. Just can't do that in the city, but you can retool. And I think that's kind of what we saw last year. And I guess we'll have to see a little bit of this year. If Fletcher Cox isn't coming back, if Jason Kelsey isn't coming back, those are pretty big voids that you have there on the line. Now they have succession plans in place. You're going to have, who your center is going to be. Obviously Carter kind of fills Cox vacancy, but then you still need another guy to step into that role. I know Jordan Davis is there, but he's not really Fletcher Cox. There's an opportunity here. They have, I think, how many draft picks do they have? I think they have 8 right. They have a chance to kind of, restock the barrel here. You have to hit on those. And we've seen the Eagles have had success in recent drafts, but still think there's a lot of questions about some of those young guys.
So he's talking about how you can, they're going to have to focus on the draft, but if a guy like Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey go, they might not sit on their hands and give the young kids a shot. And, I'm not necessarily in favor of that, but I know a lot of people believe the Super Bowl window should always stay open, and you never want it to even get slightly closed, not closed shut, but you want it to be wide open. So that's the local view on it. Here's Adam Schefter this morning on the John Kincaid Show.
I don't think it's going to be a makeover, but I do think that they're going to have to give these coordinators some of the parts that they feel like they need. So, I think the Eagles are going to upgrade their secondary, or at least attempt to upgrade their secondary in some form or fashion. And they're always looking to see what they could do to get better on defense. Do I think it's going to be a wholesale makeover? No. They're going to lean on a lot of these young guys that they've drafted the last couple of years. That's where it's going to start. But they're definitely going to be looking to supplement, complement, add to it, and grow from that. There's no doubt about that.
So it looks like it's a little bit in the middle where they will give the young kids a shot, but they're going to be active. And when you bring in Vic Fangio, a guy that they have coveted, I don't think Howie Roseman's just going to go, hey, Vic, we got this. You just be ready to call the defense. No, they've coveted that guy. I'm sure Vic Fangio comes in with a list of demands. And let's see if Howie Roseman agrees to those demands. So I want to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Do you have faith in Howie Roseman and the Eagles front office to fix things? Whether it's a quick fix to get back into the Super Bowl contention, 1 year from now, or if it's that longer, patient approach, do you believe in Howie Roseman and his drafts to also continue to add talent to this team? Really, it's just a conversation of whether or not you have faith in Howie Roseman. Would love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Get Connor's thoughts on this, your calls, and also, my God, did I wake up to a major Sixers nugget that dropped yesterday, a huge one. Oh, I can't wait to talk about it because I'm all for it. I'm Andrew Salchunas. It's the Midday Show right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
best show ever starting at 2. Now more with Andrew Salchunas on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
1021, 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas. The Midday Show, 10 o'clock hour, brought to us by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows. Plus, make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com. Opening the show out of the gate, talking about our faith in Howie Roseman to fix this Eagles team and whether or not you have faith in either direction you want them to take. It's one thing for me to say I want the Eagles to take the patient approach defensively and not do like the Rams route of trading everything to get all these all-stars in here, right? All these pro ballers, all these all-pros, which is great and all, but then it sets you back a little bit. But I also am not blind to the fact that the Eagles haven't been stellar in the draft. The last couple of years have been better than when Howie Roseman had the smartest man in the room syndrome a few years ago, going with Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson and ignoring what everybody in his scouting department said. So it has gotten better, but it's still not great. Because if you look at the last 2 years, I mean, yeah, we're excited for Jalen Carter, but then what? I mean, there's still questions about Jordan Davis. There's still questions about Nakobe Dean. There's still questions about Cam Jurgens. We'll see what he's like going back to the center position finally if Jason Kelce retires. He didn't really have a great year at right guard. And then last year's draft, Nolan Smith questions. Tyler Steen wasn't even dressing at the end. How good is Sidney Brown coming off of a major injury? Is Keely Ringo really going to be a great starter on the opposite end if James Bradbury's cut opposite end of Darius Slay? The guy's a fourth-round pick. So I also realize when I say I want them to take the patient approach, that might be the best thing. That might be the best idea. However, I have to believe in a guy who hasn't necessarily hit the ball out of the park drafting to make the right selections. Now, again, I value Vic Fangio coming in here. I would imagine that they listened to his voice a little bit more than they did with Sean Desai and Jonathan Gannon when it came to acquiring players via the draft. I mean, they probably weren't going to listen to first-time defensive coordinators all that much. They'd probably get their input, but they weren't going to have final say. So we'll see about that. And then, you know, if they go with the home run approach, do you have faith in Howie Roseman to get all those right moves? He's done it before. But I also want to talk about sustainability, which is something that they have struggled with. So where's your faith level in Howie Roseman on either side of the coin, whichever one you're at, 610-632-0975. Now, before I get to Connor, before I get to your calls, we had a major nugget dropped yesterday. Major. In the world of basketball, and it includes your Philadelphia 76ers. Get excited! So, this has been a dream of mine for years now. I'll explain it after I tell you the nugget. So, Ramona Shelburne, who I'm going to try to get on the show today, she and Woj put together a big post-deadline story, post-deadline article about teams that, you know, some of the trades that went into it, trades that didn't happen, maybe some stuff in the future. Well, one of the trades that didn't happen involved 1A or 1B, for a lot of you, the second best player in the history of the NBA. And that's LeBron James. So, according to Ramona Shelburne, Rob Pelinka, who's the president of basketball operations with the Los Angeles Lakers, had a couple of phone calls come his way about LeBron James. So LeBron James, if you don't remember, if you weren't following the storyline leading up to the NBA trade deadline, LeBron James he put out a tweet that just had an hourglass emptied, right? So it was flipped and all the sand was at the bottom, which if you know what an hourglass is, you know time's up, right?
Right.
He posts the emoji of the hourglass signaling time's up, and he doesn't dress that night. So everybody's going, oh my God. Is he gonna get traded? And where is he gonna get traded to? So according to the article, after seeing James's murky social media post of an hourglass a week before the trade deadline, Daryl Morey called Rob Pelinka to probe on a James trade and was immediately told that James wasn't available. In fact, Pelinka responded by asking Morey if Joel Embiid was available, sources said, and that ended the brief conversation. These sorts of bold trade calls are historically a common practice for Morey, who also called the Suns and asked about a trade for Kevin Durant prior to the deadline. And then when they were told no for Durant, he followed up with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. And unsurprisingly, those were no's as well, sources said to ESPN. So here's the deal. I'm sure a lot of your first thoughts is, oh, well, okay, so he called. Like, what he should call. This is what's interesting. LeBron James has 1 year left on his contract with the Lakers, and it's a player option. I'm going to bring you back to a couple of years ago when I had the LeBron James to Philly plan. And the LeBron James to Philly plan included him opting out of that contract, coming to Philadelphia on a 1 year deal. Because let's face it, Bronny, that's the big deal. He wants to play with Bronny. Bronny's not going to be playing minutes in the NBA his first year, right? Like, he still has a lot to learn. He'll get into games, don't get me wrong, but he's not like a top 2 pick, right? We know that by now. He's not Victor Wembanyama, right? Like, he's going to be probably a mid to late first round pick, unless there's a team that's so starved for LeBron James that they'll draft his son early just to get LeBron in town. So for me, I always had the LeBron plan. The LeBron plan included him coming to Philadelphia for a year, not with Bronny here, just here for a year, letting his son have his spotlight wherever he ends up getting drafted by, right? You don't want to take away the spotlight from your kid. You let your kid have the spotlight for a year. You play with the Sixers, who, at the time when I was doing this, I thought the Sixers would be still championship contenders. I also thought Ben would be here and it'd be like the LeBron and Ben connection, right? This is how far back I go back with this, okay? And so eventually LeBron James comes to Philadelphia, hopefully wins a championship because he's going to be, and now we're reaching present day when I had the LeBron plan. LeBron's still going to be ring chasing Jordan. He's going to try to find any way to win. Joel Embiid's going to be older at that point, more established, maybe another chance to win. LeBron comes in here, wins a championship with the Sixers, gets another ring on his hand, and then he signs another deal with wherever Bronny's at. I also had another bullet point. It was the LeBron James tour, comes to Philadelphia, wins, plays one more year in Cleveland, and then goes to wherever Bronny's at.
Had this all planned
This was
out.
a very elaborate plan 4 years ago. I was doing the show with Anthony. This is
strings of yarn across the wall.
This has been going back a long time. So I am still all for this. So here's the deal. Bottom line is the Sixers made a call about LeBron James. LeBron James has a player option. It's already being talked about how he's probably going to opt out of that and try to find a way to play with Bronny. And also, he'll take it for a lesser deal. His player option is $51.4 million, right? Apparently, according to reports, he'll take less than that. I'm telling you right now, I am still in favor. I don't care if he's 85 years old. If LeBron James can wear a Sixers jersey, A, he's still talented, and B, brings a culture to a team that, let's face it, the Sixers have probably lacked. I know the vibes are great right now, like the win the other night. All those guys are really happy. That's great. The Sixers need a culture. I think that's been one of the biggest issues post-process, is that there was no culture. There was enough reporting being done that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, when they were younger, were held to a different standard, sitting on a different pedestal than everybody else, and could do basically whatever they wanted. Like Ben Simmons not flying back with the team after an embarrassing loss to the Miami Heat because he wanted to spend the night in Miami with Kendall, right? Like the younger players ran the organization a little bit. And I think you need a culture in here. And I know there's somebody that's going to be saying, oh, man, this is 10 years too late. I don't care, man. You bring him in here. You bring in a culture. You also bring in a talented player. And, yeah, screw it. I'm jealous of Wizards fans that had Michael Jordan for a year. That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, anyone who thinks it's too late. Do you think the Bucks were thinking it was too late when they got Brady? Super Bowl first year.
And they won a Super Bowl, yeah.
It's not the same exact thing, but when you have a chance to acquire an all-time great, you do it.
Dude, he's averaging 25 a game this year.
Yeah.
He's shooting 40% from three. He's averaging 7 boards and 8 dimes. You're not getting LeBron James, who comes in here and averages 12, 5, and 5. You're getting a guy that's still averaging 25, 7, and 8 and is shooting 40% from three. And, oh, by the way, in the games he plays, because I know he's not an everyday player at this point. He's conserving his energy. He's still playing 35 minutes. This guy's an athletic freak. So when I read that tweet this morning, it came out last night, the story. When I read it this morning, I started celebrating in my house. He's not even here yet. What's up, Connor?
Hey, Andy. How you feeling?
I'm sorry. I can't get enough of this. I will take him in a heartbeat, man.
I would too, and I love to hear how excited you are. I just know how this plays out.
How does it play out?
It plays out with him playing under that player option, staying in L.A., just like hanging out comfortably on the West Coast.
Maybe.
I'd love to see him. Anyone who doesn't want LeBron, I think, is crazy. But the steps that would have to occur for him to end up in Philadelphia I don't know if far-fetched is the right word. It's a long shot, a very long shot.
Of course it is, because it won't just be the Sixers. The second he opts out, it's going to be
everybody.
Every team in the NBA is going to try to get LeBron to come. Also, in that same story, the Warriors were trying to make a trade for LeBron James. And, you know, could you imagine Steph and LeBron on the same team? LeBron James getting 8 dimes playing with Anthony Davis and a bunch of, other scrubs, pretty much, right? Like, they're you go with Steph Curry. Imagine that kind of combination. All of a sudden, it's the Western Conference All-Stars. You know what I mean?
But you go with Embiid, and then...
Well, right. And so I don't think it's far-fetched that the Sixers couldn't get him. And, oh, by the way, he loves Embiid. Maxey he's a clutch guy, right? Clutch sports guy, I'm pretty sure. Remember they worked out together? There was the photo of LeBron and Ben Simmons together, and there's Tyrese Maxey in the background, right? Like, I'm sure he feels a certain type of way about Tyrese Maxey, too.
Yeah, listen, it could happen. It definitely could happen, and the Sixers being interested is good because there are going to be some teams that try and sell to their fan base that this is not, we don't need or want LeBron, and that's the dumbest thing ever. So the fact that Daryl Morey called, great.
I love it.
We'll see if it actually plays out.
Bring him home, man. Bring him home. I need LeBron James to wear a Sixers uniform next season. I'm all for it. I would love to get your thoughts on this, 610-632-0975, because, Connor, you say people are crazy that if they don't want LeBron James.
Yes.
There's a lot of people that don't want LeBron James.
Which is insane.
But people are turned off by him. They don't like LeBron, the GM. They don't like LeBron, that he's all over the place. People just don't like greatness a lot of the times.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, I think the only reason why people rooted for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs was because they were playing the 49ers. At some point, everybody's going to hate Patrick Mahomes around here like we hated Brady. Now, a little different circumstance. They won in the Super Bowl and cheated their way into winning that Super Bowl. But Patrick Mahomes beat the Eagles. Yeah, whatever. People hate greatness all the time. I think a lot of it's jealousy. It's jealousy for me. Like, I wouldn't mind Patrick Mahomes on the Eagles.
Not at all.
I wouldn't mind LeBron James in his prime on the Sixers. Like, I don't see why you would be turned off by it, but I know that there are people that are turned off by it. So I'd love to hear from you. I know it's one of these topics where you're going, man, come on, really? Like, we're doing this? Well, the fact that the Sixers are making calls and the fact that he's available next year, and there's already reports out there that he may opt out of that contract to try to play with Bronny or to try to figure something out down the road to play with Bronny, I'm making whatever I can to get LeBron James to play with the Sixers, not just because it's still how talented he is, but he also brings a culture that I think this team desperately needs. 610-632-0975. Now, Connor, I would love to get your thoughts on this Eagles topic. Whether or not, and first off, let me ask you what your approach would be, because Ray and I had the back and forth. Ray wants to swing for the fences. Look, the offense is still very good,
right?
When run correctly, right? When Kellen,
at least we assume it is.
Yeah, when it's not Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson, right? So when run correctly, we've seen what this offense could do. Just 2 years ago, they got to the Super Bowl. The defense needs fixing for them to be back in the Super Bowl, big time. The question is, do you want them to try to do the home run and swing for the fences, trying to hit a home run with a bunch of players, and that might be able to get you back into a Super Bowl as quickly as next year? Or do you want to try to take the patient approach where maybe you have some sort of sustainability? But I also know, it's Eagles country here, man. Like, nobody wants to punt a season away.
No, it's a thread the needle type of thing because you can't throw all your eggs in one basket or the other. Part of it, I look at this and I say, I still have faith in Jalen Hurts. As long as you have the quarterback, your window's open. So you're not just playing for this year. It's not like what the Rams did where you're bringing in Matt Stafford after years of Detroit. And you know he's going to be there, but how many years does he have left being like a top-level quarterback? Ideally, Hurts with the right coaching is going to be one of those top guys year in and year out. So you can't just do swing for the fences just for this year, and then you're going to have 5 years down the road where you're paying off all those contracts and everyone's washed. Like, you need to draft as well. So it's a split between, you do have to take some home run shots on a couple of positions. Safety, you need somebody unbelievable. It's important for the Vic Fangio defense.
Yeah.
It's something that you're not really going to be able to add through the draft that's an immediate impact with where you pick. Like, you're not going to get a safety in the second round that's an immediate difference maker, first, week starter.
Right.
Probably not.
Or you can give them a shot to start, and then they learn over the course of a season like Kyle Hamilton.
Right, but
and
even
not Jordan Davis.
How long has Kyle Hamilton been in the league for? Great player. But
second year.
Yeah, so it takes a little bit of time. And even that, the Ravens had issues with Mahomes. I'm saying I want the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I want the Malcolm Jenkins. I want the proven veteran can make a difference in the defensive backfield.
But then the question is it the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson rookie deal? You got 1 year left, and then you don't re-sign him, and now what? Or is it Malcolm Jenkins, you sign him over Jarius Byrd and TJ Ward, and then you sign him for a 3-year deal, right? And that wasn't the splashiest of the signings. He ended up being the best among the three, but that was still a splashy signing. Whereas the trade for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, you gave, a 4th-round pick for him?
Right. So even swinging for the fences isn't always completely giving everything for a free agent or a trade. I just think you can't just bring in veterans because Howie Roseman has not stocked the cupboard when it comes to young defensive players on this team. Sure, he drafted Jordan Davis. We don't know how good he's going to be.
Right.
Jalen Carter looks great, but he hit a rookie wall, so we'll see how he develops. And Nolan Smith was on a milk carton.
Right.
It's not exactly. And who's the?
Oh, and then before that, and the Kobe Dean, right? Which it has not looked well. The draft before that was Milton Williams, rotational guy. Zach McPherson. I know he was out hurt last season, but I didn't see anything in his first 2 years that made me think he was going to become some sort of big player. And then then you get to the Patrick Johnsons of the world. Those are special teams guys if they're even playing. They haven't really done well with the guys in the draft. If anything, they've become good rotational players, except for Jalen Carter. I believe he's going to become a stud.
He's a monster.
Yeah.
But you need to do both, right? You can't just swing for the fences because Jalen Hurts is going to be here a long time. And you can't just ignore the draft, right? Or you can't just do the draft because you need guys that can compete now. Because who knows what happens, what Lane Johnson's future is, what some of these guys, if Kelsey does come back, because we don't know, there's some weird stuff circulating about whether or not he'll play again.
Right.
You need to go all in without going all in.
Well, and that's the funny thing. So I had Jeff McClain on yesterday, and, we were talking about what they could do with that first-round pick, and he was talking about Tyler Guyton, who's a right tackle out of Oklahoma. So Lane Johnson has the ties there, and Lane Johnson's been apparently grooming him a little bit, trying to get him ready for the NFL draft, get him ready for being an NFL player. They could take the route of, let's draft Lane Johnson's heir apparent, but he's going to play right guard. So that means Tyler Steen, who you just drafted in the 3rd round, you're already kicking him to the curb, right? That's a problem. So I'm not naive to the fact that it hasn't been great what they've done in the draft, but all I know is I've seen them do this now where they have swung for the fences. It worked once. They won a Super Bowl. Tremendous.
True.
And I don't care. You win a Super Bowl and you have 2 bad years after that. At least you won the Super Bowl. Right now, I want them to keep on winning because, forgive me, I like dynasties. I don't like one-and-dones. But, they never did the right things following winning that Super Bowl. They went all out 2 years ago, or last year, 2 Super Bowls ago. And unfortunately, they didn't win, and look at what happened the following year.
Yeah, so here's the thing, too, and this is going to become a more prevalent conversation as we get deeper into the offseason. You might have to do the swing for the fences thing and just find 1 year. Because there's a chance that Mahomes is just unbelievable. And you just you can't even build a dynasty right now because he'll always be there. And you just have to go all in.
Yeah, but at least he'll always be there in the other conference.
That's true.
Right? So be it. You play him 4 times and you go 1-3. That would suck, but
right.
At least you got to the Super Bowl 4 times.
I'm just saying, it could be 4 years you play him, or you go all in on 1 year and you just know you have the best team and you spend a lot of crazy money.
Which is what the Rams did a few years ago, and they won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I would love to get your input on it. And bottom line is, do you believe Howie Roseman can do that? Whether you think it's the patient approach, going young, or swinging for the fences like a Rams offseason a few years ago. Do you have the faith in Howie Roseman as the GM to actually hit on all these drafts or free agents or trades? 610-632-0975. Also, would love to get your thoughts. Already, we're 50-50 in terms of the guys on hold when it comes to LeBron James. See, I knew it's going to be fascinating. right? I remember a couple off seasons when there was no chance he was ever coming to Philadelphia, but it was a talking point every single day, right?
Oh,
Like,
well,
we all
there was
knew
a chance. He went and checked out schools.
that was all bull, and he was never going to not go to the L.A. He had the damn Space Jam movie written before he even signed with the Lakers, right?
Space Jam would have been cool in Philly. Come on.
It would have been, but you knew that wasn't going to happen. So I know that if he opts out, it is going to be a wild offseason with LeBron watch, right? Well, I'm starting it now. I'm starting LeBron watch in February of 2024 when I see a report come out last night that the Sixers were making calls on LeBron James. I'm all for it. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. 610-632-0975. And if you're outraged by me wanting LeBron James, I'm sure a lot of you are outraged by a quarterback list that came out yesterday. Oh, my God. As I said yesterday, I'll say it again today. Never a dull moment in Philadelphia sports. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show, right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
We got mitts popping in Clearwater. I'm Connor.
and WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia. A Beasley Media Group station. Broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It is 10:50 on the Midday Show. I'm Andrew Salchunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic. Coming up later on this segment, oh boy, man. The latest quarterback ranking list comes out. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Sometimes you wonder, is it for a reaction? Sometimes you wonder, is this really what they think? I'll tell you about that coming up a little bit later on this segment. I sent it to you, Connor, last night. Did you end up getting into it last night?
No, I didn't touch it. I left it for today.
Oh, you could have. I mean, I'm sure you saw it before I even sent it to you. So
Yeah,
you
but
had every right to get to it yesterday.
Trust me, I wanted to save this for here.
Oh, wow,
because
that's very nice of you.
I'm not happy with it.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Now, look, it's conversations will be had, and we will have it once we go through this list. But it's just absolutely ridiculous. So we'll get to that later on this segment. But I want to get to a couple of your calls because I see people are waiting to talk about, well, what I thought would be an Eagles-driven day. No, LeBron. I mean, I was talking to Scott, our program director, right before the show started, and he asked me, what I was getting into today, and I told him about the Eagles thing. And then I brought up the LeBron article, and I was like, dude, any chance I get a chance to talk about LeBron James to Philly? I'm going to do it. It's my generation's best player. Right, like we don't have to do the LeBron versus MJ debate. I'm not doing
best
that.
Player.
I know that's how you feel, even though you and I are too young to really watch Michael Jordan. So that's why I always take myself out of that argument. My generation's best player in maybe sports, right? LeBron James, right? It's between LeBron, Serena, Tom Brady, and trying to
Phelps.
Yeah, Usain Bolt.
Yeah,
but
now
think
we're
about
getting
it,
into
like
Olympics.
But he's up there, like in sports in general. He's one of the best of my generation. So I would love to get your thoughts on this because I know he's going to be a polarizing figure. It's going to be a polarizing topic all offseason, and we're only in February. We're still hoping the Sixers can make a run in the playoffs if Joel Embiid comes back healthy in time. But let's talk about it. 610-632-0975. Your reaction to the article that comes out. I'll read it one more time for you. The blurb from Ramona Shelburne, who I'm going to try to get on the show today. Ramona Shelburne and Adrian Wojnarowski put together an article post-trade deadline. And they got into the conversation about LeBron James, who Rob Pelinka, who was the president of basketball operations for the Los Angeles Lakers, after seeing James's murky social media post of an hourglass a week before the trade deadline, Philadelphia 76ers president of basketball ops, Daryl Morey, called Pelinka to probe on a James trade and was immediately told that James wasn't available. In fact, Pelinka responded by asking Morey if Joel Embiid was available, sources said, and that ended the brief conversation. Now, it's not just about the trade deadline. It's the fact that he has a player option after this season, and there's already reports that he is willing to opt out and take less in order to play with Bronny. So that opens up a whole can of worms. Let's talk about it. Let's go to the phone. Let's go to Brian in New Jersey. Brian, you're on the Fanatic.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, Brian.
How are you? Thank you so much. This is my first time calling the show.
Oh, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm blessed. I can't complain.
That's great. I love that. Now, what do you got on LeBron? Future Sixer LeBron James.
So I truly believe that LeBron, Maxey, and Embiid, if you want to, throw in there Buddy Hill and maybe a couple other guys, would actually equal a championship.
Well, and when you say a couple other guys, it's the couple other guys that, follow LeBron.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, you are a destination for one-year deals.
Right. Yeah. And here's the thing. To get LeBron, we have to draft his son. I know that sounds crazy.
Well, no, that's literally the point of it. And here's the deal. Bronny is not a top 10 pick.
Right. But to get his attention into Philly, that would work. Because otherwise, I can't think of, how would we give him to Philadelphia? Like you said, everybody's going to be reaching for him. So, if you want to get him, draft his son.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing it. For LeBron James, I'm doing it. And Bronny won't be getting all that much time on the court. I mean, look, he's a freshman at USC this year. And he's averaging under 6 points a game. So it's not like he's one of these freshmen that are coming out of college that's going to be a top 3 pick. He might not even come out of college after year 1. We don't know. He might actually sit another year at USC. Who knows? And LeBron comes here on a 1-year deal, plays here, which was the Chunas plan from years ago. And then when Bronny eventually goes into the draft, LeBron signs wherever that team goes. But, yeah, I mean, if he does enter the draft, you're going to have to entice him by getting him.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of right now that would really – get him packing his bags and, coming to Philly because it's tough out there as far as the rest of the teams. But I can see that him and Embiid alone would just be a powerhouse. So that would be great.
Absolutely. I appreciate the call, Brian. Thanks for calling. I saw we had a guy on hold who dropped off, Naheem, and I wanted to get to him because he was talking about how he doesn't want LeBron. How does he fit on this team? How does he fit with Joel Embiid? Look, LeBron James fits on any team he plays on.
Yes.
Period.
Any team that's ever existed.
He fits because he does everything. He can play point guard for you at times, right? He can play on the low block. The way Joel Embiid lives in the mid-range, LeBron James can play on the perimeter. I mean, LeBron James there's a reason why he's in conversations of one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. Like, he fits on any team. I talked to about this yesterday. Mikal Bridges, which just randomly came up on the show. Mikal Bridges fits every iteration of the Sixers post process. Like, he would have been on any team. Because he's that style of player. Mikal Bridges is not LeBron, but LeBron is a guy that can play with quite literally anybody. And what are you going to tell me? Oh, how's he going to play with Joel Embiid? Well, how's he playing with Anthony Davis? A team that won a championship. Mickey Mouse or not, right, in the bubble, they won. What title have the Sixers won in the last 40 years?
That would be none.
None. I want to give myself any possible chance to win. And I know. This is one of the things that bothers me the most. With a lot of Philadelphia fans, period. Whether it's Sixers, Flyers, Phillies, or Eagles. One of my biggest beefs with Philadelphia fans in my 10 years of doing this is, I want to win it the traditional way. I want to build. I don't give a rat's ass how I win, right? You and I actually did a show probably a year ago about likability and whether or not that matters to you. I don't care. No. I can hate every man on the roster. If you're winning me a title, hey, I'm buying you a beer anyway. Right? So there are people that go, oh, man, build a traditional. Look what they were able to get with Tyrese Maxey, 21st overall. They lucked out with Tyrese Maxey because Mike Muscala hit a meaningless 3 at number 1. And number 2, if he plays in the tournament that year, he's a top 10 pick. So you're not always going to find these guys in the 20th, with the 20th pick. Look at Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot. He's not in the NBA anymore. Neither is Furkan Korkmaz as of this moment. Right, so it's not all the time you're going to hit on these guys with the 20th pick. So if I have to, bite the bullet and draft Bronny James, probably overdraft him to get LeBron to give myself the best chance to win, I'm doing it. And I don't need it to be from the ground up. We did the ground up. What if they won? Nothing. The process was ground up. The process was below the ground. They've won nothing. So if I can get the best players available anyway and I have to do some dirty work to do it, I have to bite my tongue. I have to do some dirty things? Come on. Draft Bronny. Get LeBron James. Make it happen. Let's go to Jay in Jersey. Jay, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, what's going on, y'all?
Hey, Jay.
Hey, what's going on, man? I am the biggest, Jordan over LeBron guy you'll meet.
Okay.
I debate about it. I'll debate, and I've actually talked to other LeBron people, and they'll be like, that's the best debate they've heard.
That's awesome.
I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty good.
I love how passionate you are about that. That's great.
All that stuff all day. But with that said, you can get the second greatest player, or for his generation, the first, however you want to say it, a top 2 player of all time. You get him. It's not that hard. I actually agree with you. I wanted LeBron back in 2018.
Yeah.
If you can get LeBron and Bronny, you do it. Sixers will become the top team in the East. To be honest with you,
the second he walks in here,
I don't understand why. I talked with some friends who were like, "Oh, I don't want him here." We would probably be in the top 2 teams. We would probably get to the finals. To be honest with y'all.
Look, the second seed right now. The second seed. The second seed in the Eastern Conference is the Cavs right now. You're better than the Cavs the second LeBron steps on this court.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, and like I said, this is a Jordan over LeBron guy talking here who debates it left and right. there's no question I would want LeBron James on the team. Let's not be stupid here, people.
Right.
Like,
And see,
you
I
want a great
appreciate
player.
I
It's not
appreciate
hard.
that you say, look, this is also a Michael Jordan over LeBron guy, because there are people that are blinded by the MJ LeBron thing, that they don't want LeBron because of their love for Michael Jordan.
You want the great. You want like the second greatest or greatest, however you want to say it. You want the guy in that conversation on your team. It's really not that hard.
Absolutely, Jay. I appreciate the call, man. I love that. See, this is great. We got a Michael Jordan fan calling in saying LeBron's a great answer. Here's what I'd love to hear from you at 610-632-0975. If you do not want Michael Jordan, if you do not want LeBron James, give me a legitimate reason why, other than I don't like him. I don't think you can.
No.
I really don't think you can. Naheem, who dropped off, was going to try to talk about how he might not fit on this team, which I don't agree with, but at least he was going to come with a basketball point and not just, I don't like him. There's too much around him. Like, no. Tell me a legitimate basketball reason why you would not want LeBron James here. Because to me, if I'm getting him on a 1-2 year deal, I got LeBron James for 1 or 2 years.
Right.
It's not like I'm giving him a super max.
Like, dude, remember how excited everybody was when James Harden came here? Because of how great of a player, like historically, James Harden is. That guy's one of the great point guards in the history of the game. And James Harden doesn't hold a candle to LeBron James. Like, it's not even close when it comes to the legacy, the ability to play right now, all of this stuff. It's just something about having a legend like that. Wear this jersey, play in this city. Who does not want that? You can't possibly come up with an explanation that's going to convince me it's not good.
And again, I'll reiterate. He's averaging 25, 7, and 8, and playing 35 minutes at the age of 39. Like, it's not like you're getting a guy who's on the tail end of his career, and he's like Kyle Lowry, for example. Not to throw shade at Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry, future Hall of Famer. The Sixers just got him in the buyout market, right? Kyle Lowry this year is not doing what LeBron James is doing. Kyle Lowry's averaging 8, 4, and 3. Right? Like, LeBron James is still playing at a borderline MVP level.
Right.
If you want to make the case, like, I know he's not going to win the MVP. I know he's not Jokic. He's not going to come close to that, but he's up there, man. He's still playing at an extremely high level. I don't see how, from a basketball point of view, you could tell me that he would not be a good fit. Would love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. I know Hakeem wants to talk about. Let's go to Hakeem.
Hey, how y'all doing?
What's up, man?
All right, so I think if they would have got him at the deadline, would have been great. But he's going to fall off the cliff next year.
How do you know that? Tell me.
Intuition.
Intuition. Tom Brady was going to fall off the cliff the last 10 years of his career, and he continued to win Super Bowls and went to a different team and won a Super Bowl. LeBron James will run circles around you and me, Hakeem, until he's 90 years old. The dude is in ridiculous shape. He's not going to fall off a cliff. He's shooting 40% from 3. The first thing that goes out is your legs, and he's still shooting 40%.
I agree with you. But I feel like he's going to fall off. Just my point. Just my thought.
All right, so you would rather not get him with the worry that he's going to fall off, or your intuition that he's going to fall off?
It just seems to be a Philly type of thing.
Oh, come on. Don't be scared. Come on. The past is the past. Come on, man. Look, I hear you. I know all about the curses. I know all about Philadelphia getting the player too late. I hear you. I appreciate the call, Hakeem. I get it. It happens all the time. We've seen it with the Flyers were the kings of that, right? Getting the guy that was too late in his career and not having anything left in the tank, maybe having a game or two and you get excited and then he falls off. Connor just brought up James Harden, right? Like, I know, even though he's playing well with the Clippers, kind of hard not to play well with the Clippers with that team. But come on, man, we can't be doing this. My intuition and past failures is the reason why I don't want LeBron James. I said for basketball. Give me a basketball reason why you would not want this guy on the team. Don't give me intuition.
And also, like, are we going to learn the Brady thing, the LeBron James? This is not the 1980s where guys had their career and then you hit 35 and all of a sudden the next thing you know, you can't play anymore. Like, we're seeing more and more dudes play late 30s, early 40s. Like, this is just, if you take care of your body and modern medicine and all this stuff, these guys play longer. So the fact that he's 39.
By the way, we're talking about Brady and LeBron, like the best.
Right.
The best, right? We're not talking about, I don't know. Give me like a top 50, like Kawhi Leonard, right?
Yeah.
Like, guy's already been dealing with injuries throughout his entire career. Like, I don't know if he's going to be able to continue playing into his 40s. We're talking about a guy who's taking care of his body well for years now. And I know load management's a big part of it, right? Like, last year, he ended up playing 55 games, 56 the year before that, 45 the year before that. Now, I he was hurt one of those years. But look, the guy takes care of his body, and when he does play is a major factor. And I understand. It's not like the Lakers are running around with the West right now. The Lakers at this point, they are 9th. So they're a play-in team. They were a play-in team last year and got to the Western Conference Finals, man. We always talk about how seeding doesn't matter. With LeBron, it doesn't matter.
So I'm just looking this up, right, too, because the replacement that LeBron would make here in Philadelphia, it would be one Tobias Harris. That would be basically the role he would fill. Not that he'd be the third option, but that's kind of the closest style to the size of player he is. Right now, Tobias has got for this year 17.5 points per game, basically, 6 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Like, even if LeBron falls off next year based on his numbers this year,
better than Tobias.
He's better than that. And also, he's LeBron. Like, if you told me LeBron has the same exact numbers as Tobias Harris, who do you want?
Oh, I'm taking LeBron because of what he also brings in terms of respect, what he brings for free agent. Like, I'm sorry, with all due respect to the crumble cookie.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming to Philadelphia to play with Tobias Harris.
That's not a knock. We'd say the same thing about, like, Hurts and Mahomes, for an example.
Right.
Like, I like
Who'd you
Jalen
rather
Hurts.
play with? You'd rather play with Patrick Mahomes. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
Let's go to Chris in Jenkintown. Chris, you're on the Fanatic.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
Hey, Chris.
I got a question. I just want to know now if you want LeBron here or not. That's totally up to you, and you already said you do, and I can appreciate that. But what's it gonna take, Andrew?
What's it going to take? He'll be a free agent if he opts out.
Yeah, I'm saying $51 million a year. You're saying
the
right?
reports already said that he will opt. He might opt out of his player option, which is $51.4 million, and would take less than what his contract was. So he's already apparently, according to reports, willing to take less. Now, less is still going to be $30 million, but so be it. Who cares?
Oh, it's going to be way more than that.
All right, who cares? So you have Maxey to the max contract. You have Joel Embiid to the max contract. You make the money work with LeBron James. You're already a contender immediately.
And are going to have him for a year, correct?
A year, maybe 2, depending on what the whole Bronny James situation is. Dude, if I have LeBron James for 1 year, I'm satisfied.
You have to go get his son, right?
Yeah, so be it.
Okay, all right, it's extortion.
I'm making anything work to bring the best player of my generation who is still playing at a high level to help also bring in a culture to a team that I think desperately has needed it ever since the process came to an end. And look at what happened. I mean, Ben Simmons was spoiled rotten. James Harden was spoiled rotten. You bring in LeBron James, whether you like him or not, there's a culture with him.
I certainly respect it. I just don't see it happening.
Well, it might not happen, right? But I'm going to get excited for it in February. I'm telling you right now, I am beating the drum.
Okay.
Thanks.
I'm glad I share your enthusiasm. But,
well, I don't think you do, Chris, but I appreciate the call. It doesn't sound like you share my enthusiasm. All right, I'm jumping through the radio right now talking about this. I'm all for it, man. I am all for it. Make it happen, Maury. Bring LeBron to Philadelphia next offseason. I would love to get your thoughts on this because I know I mean, look, we are so crazy that my intuition tells me he's going to fall off soon. Like, people are so soured on LeBron James, the idea of LeBron James, that we're going with intuition as the reason why. Come on, man.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Let's say that Embiid comes back healthy this year, plays like he was earlier, and this team just rallies. They end up winning it all this year. Because that's not the most outlandish thing. If they can get healthy, they have some pieces.
Okay.
Does that change the way you look at throwing money at LeBron?
You don't want a two-peat?
I would like a two-peat, but
You
let's
bring
say
LeBron home, you get a two-peat.
let's say you feel like you could win with the way you have it,
Well,
and
what,
you don't want to give up.
With who?
Well,
LeBron James and Paul Reed are the only two guys under contract next year, and Maxey when he gets his max.
yeah, I'm just saying, like, you re-signed the guys that you have in here, and you commit money to the way that you made it work this year. Is there, like, I just wonder. I would still do it, but I'm just testing your.
I want the best players, man. Give me the freaking best players. I am greedy. I don't give a damn. Would love to get your thoughts on it. 610-632-0975. Coming up next, we'll reset the show. Also, this quarterback list. So I'll just tell you where he ranks. Jalen Hurts, in the first rendition of the let's rank the quarterbacks, let's rank this, let's rank that, because it's the offseason now, and content never sleeps, especially if you are specifically covering football. The quarterback rankings have come out. And Jalen Hurts, going into the 2024 season, is not only not in the top half, he comes in at 17. 17. I will tell you who he's ahead of. I'll tell you who he's behind of. And I'll tell you where this is coming from next, right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
starting at 2. Now more with Andrew Salchunas on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It is 11:19 on this Wednesday morning. I'm Andrew Salchunas here on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic, 11 o'clock hour, brought to us by Golden Nugget Jewelers. That's where Philly gets engaged. All right, so here's what we have on the table for you. It's turned into a LeBron show, and I'll explain why if you're just tuning in. But we opened it up talking Eagles and finding out what your faith level is in Howie Roseman. The reason why I asked that question is because the Eagles have some big changes coming their way defensively, right? I've been saying this for a couple of days now. 6, maybe 7 starters need to be replaced defensively. And I know your initial thought is, yeah, of course, because they were so bad, you need to do that. But bottom line is the Eagles still have an incredible offense talent-wise, and we're excited for the addition of Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. So with that being the case, like this team should still run well offensively. Now, defensively, you know that they have a lot of fixes, a lot of stuff that they need to change. The question is, how do you want them to go about that? Do you want them to go about it by doing a patient approach and going with a youth movement, which is what I actually want them to do? Or do you want them to swing for the fences and go for a bunch of splashy trades, splashy free agent signings, and basically give up all your draft capital the way that the Rams did a couple years ago, which led them to a Super Bowl, right? But now they're looking their way up in the standings, and Sean McVay contemplated retirement, right? Because he realized cap hell, and it's kind of what Sean Payton did with the Saints. Like, oh, let me run this organization to the ground, trying to win a Super Bowl, and you know what? I'm going to get out of here, right? So the question is, which way do you want to do it? But do you have faith? Because I need to also remind myself that it's not like Howie Roseman has really knocked it out of the park with the youth movement, right? That's been one of the biggest issues for the Eagles, because we talk about sustained success. Well, sustained success happens 2 ways. You can sign and make trades for all these guys, but have them under 2-3 year deals and continue to bring in different pieces as the year goes on, or you have to draft well. And we've seen the big splashy signings not work out sometimes, or it works out for a year and then they're not back the following season. Or, like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, they traded for, gave up draft picks for him. He actually had a very good season, but then they don't bring him back. So now you didn't win a Super Bowl. Ends up not being, I don't want to say being a waste, but ends up being a waste. And on the other side of things, right, like if you're hoping that they draft well, it hasn't been perfect. It's been better, but it hasn't been perfect. So my question for you is, do you have faith in Howie Roseman to fix it the way you want them to fix it? So if you want them to take the patient approach, do you have faith in Howie Roseman to draft well and, find guys that are coming off of rookie deals that are still young and still getting established in the NFL? Or if you're the opposite and you want them to be splashy and make big trades and make big free agent signings, do you have faith in Howie Roseman to do it? So, Connor, it seems like you're more of a splashy offseason kind of guy.
Well, you got to split it, but I would really like those veterans to be built up and throw some money at the defense.
Do you have faith in Howie Roseman to do it?
I do, 100%.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy that this fan base wouldn't have faith in Howie Roseman, right? Like, I had this conversation last night about Jalen Hurts, and we're going to talk about him in the quarterback rankings in just a second.
Yeah.
But my thing is, if you're going to blame the coaching staff, and they blame the coaching staff, they got rid of the OC, the DC, and the replacement DC. So if you're going to blame the coaching staff, you can't then also say the biggest problem was the personnel or the biggest problem was the quarterback. Like, clearly the biggest problem with this team was coaching. So I'm not saying the personnel was up to snuff, but Howie Roseman gets some type of a pass saying Vic Fangio can do better with these players. And the same for Jalen Hurts at the quarterback position. So, yeah, I think we should still have largely faith in Howie Roseman as a guy who's won a Super Bowl in this town and brought you to another one.
Yeah, and that's fair, right? And it's just, do you have faith? I guess the follow-up to that would be, do you have faith that he can sustain it?
Well,
now,
you're Mr. 1 year and I'm good, so he doesn't have to sustain it.
If you win a Super Bowl, that's awesome. If you don't, which you didn't win last year, you got to it, but you didn't win. All right, so what was it for? A fun season?
I mean, it's not what was it for. Like, Yeah, they didn't win it, but you did everything you could.
And then you
to
put
get
yourself in a bad situation the following year.
And that's what you got to accept if you're a swing for the fence type of person. That's why I think threading the needle is
Do people
key.
want that? Like, I know people want to be Super Bowl contenders every single year. I do too. But do you want to be Super Bowl contenders every single year, or every other year, I should say?
Well, you can't,
because there's the chance that you fall off the next season.
You can't win because you're going to want it in the moment. And then the second you get into like that kind of rebuild, retool period when things fall apart, if they fall apart, people are going to be like, you never should have gone all in. I don't know. You were a play or two away from last year winning the Super Bowl. So and I'm not saying they went all in.
Right.
But in the moment, I think people would be cool with it. And after the moment, if they don't win, people are going to be mad either way. So take your best shot.
Okay. And then the other topic that we have going on right now is about LeBron James. Because LeBron James, well, the Sixers, I love it. Daryl Morey called the Lakers like a week before the deadline because LeBron James put out a tweet with the hourglass emoji, time run out. And Daryl Morey called the Lakers to see, what's the deal here? Now, he was quickly turned down. But what's interesting is reports came out after that tweet and before the deadline that LeBron James is willing to opt out of his contract. He has a player option after this season, $51.4 million. It's a big chunk of change. He's willing to opt out of the contract and then play wherever Bronny James goes. Or if Bronny James doesn't come out right away, maybe waits a year, signs somewhere else. Now, if Bronny James doesn't come out of college, my guess would be he stays with the Lakers for one more year, makes $51.5 million, right? Like,
not a bad payday.
That one contract sets you up for life, let alone everything that he's done in his career, right? $51.5 million sets you for life.
LeBron could live to 5,000. He's set for life.
Yeah, he's okay. But all I'm saying is if LeBron James is available, I don't care how old he is, right? Because you should just ignore the age when you see what he's doing. I'm all for it. And what I want to hear from you who don't want LeBron James today at 610-632-0975 is tell me why with a basketball reason, okay? Because I know how a lot of you operate. I just don't want him, okay? Well, that bleep pride, Butch. Like, that's what if the Sixers won? Like the Sixers haven't won a championship in 40 years. So, would you rather take your pride and not see the Sixers win a title just because you didn't want LeBron James here? Is it because you're a Michael Jordan guy and that's why you don't like LeBron James? Because I know people vehemently don't like LeBron James. And so sometimes you need to put your dislike aside if it's best for your team. And the one basketball reason I saw so far was from our caller Naheem, but he dropped off, unfortunately, was that LeBron doesn't fit on this team. Bogus. LeBron fits on any team. And oh, by the way, you make the team fit with LeBron James. Plain and simple. All right. We'll get to the phones in a second. But this quarterback ranking list, this will now also be opened up to the conversation. So there's a website called the 33rd Team. The 33rd Team is, I actually think, a very credible source of information, right? And, I don't think there's bias. I don't think there's agenda with them. They have former NFL players, former coaches that are involved. They have, former beats, former national reporters that are involved. A couple of players have podcasts through their organization, the 33rd Team, like Fred Warner with the 49ers, Amon-Ra St. Brown with the Lions. So I don't think there's bias and agenda here. But I have to question this list, man. So they put out their 2024 offseason quarterback power rankings. The starter of each team. So this isn't the Chris Sims top 40 where he had backups ahead of Jalen Hurts a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
This is the 32 starters, at least expected starters, going into the 2024 season. Or I guess you could say current starters because teams might draft a quarterback and move on. So, number 32 is Bailey Zappi. I don't think the Patriots are going to go into the 2024 season with Bailey Zappi.
Don't worry,
as their starting quarterback, okay? So Bailey Zappi comes in at 32, Kenny Pickett 31, Aiden O'Connell with the Raiders at 30. Sam Howell, 29. Will Levis at 28. He should probably be lower, actually, like in the 30s. Deshaun Watson comes in at 27. Ritter comes in at 26. He sucks. I would put Pickett ahead of him. I think Ritter sucks. I think what the Falcons have done has been just an absolute tragedy with that organization.
Say what you want about Deshaun Watson. The fact he's below Desmond Ritter on this list is
exactly.
Like, it's insane.
Like Desmond Ritter actually sucks. That organization sucks. Like drafting Kyle Pitts when they should have drafted the replacement of Matt Ryan was just dumb. And they're still dumb, but whatever. Bryce Young comes in at 25. Russell Wilson comes in at 24. And again, this is current team, so he has the Broncos next to him, even though he's not going to be there. Daniel Jones at 23. Derek Carr at 22. Justin Fields at 21. So now we enter our top 20. Baker Mayfield. Tua at 19.
Way low.
I appreciate that Brock Purdy has not reached the top 10 on this list because you know ESPN's going to have him in the top 10. Brock Purdy comes in at number 18. And right ahead of him is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts comes in at number 17 on this list. Do me a favor, Connor, if you can, while I continue to talk about it. Try to find out what they had for the 2023 list.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Because obviously these change every single year. It's based off of how they played, and I'm also sure based off of projection because this is the 2024 offseason quarterback power rankings. They have Jalen Hurts at 17 behind Anthony Richardson, who played for like 7 minutes this year. Got hurt twice. Gardner Minshew was the starting quarterback pretty much the majority of the season for the Colts. They have him behind Anthony Richardson. They have him behind Rodgers. Goff at 14. Kirk Cousins, for crying out loud, at 13. Now, this is the one that makes me vomit. Legitimately, I threw up this morning when I saw it. Geno Smith. Now, Geno Smith not only shouldn't be ahead of Jalen Hurts, he shouldn't be ahead of Cousins, Goff, Rodgers, maybe Richardson, because Richardson doesn't deserve it. He shouldn't be ahead of Tua. Like, Geno Smith, really? Geno Smith is the 12th best quarterback in the NFL, according to this list? Kyler Murray is at 11. I know Kyler Murray could still be a very good quarterback, but come on. Now we've reached the top 10. The Jordan Love stock is rising fast. He's at 10. Joe Burrow dropping to 9. Trevor Lawrence is a top 10 quarterback? Trevor Lawrence is 8th? What has Trevor Lawrence done in the NFL so far for him to get that kind of respect? I know that there is still hope for Trevor Lawrence to turn into a good quarterback in the NFL. But if we're doing projection and also what they have done in the past, Trevor Lawrence has done nothing to be considered a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. CJ Stroud at 7. Dak Prescott at 6. I know a lot of people laugh at that. He was a finalist for MVP. Matt Stafford is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, according to this list. An organization that prides itself on football coverage, right? Matthew Stafford is the 5th best quarterback in the NFL? What? Herbert 4, Allen 3, Lamar 2, Patrick Mahomes number 1. I think Patrick Mahomes being number 1 is the only one you legitimately cannot argue. And I'm sure Bailey Zappi is the only one you can literally not argue as well because 32, I don't know who's worse than Bailey Zappi. Jalen Hurts being 17th on this, I know the season wasn't great, and the eye test tells you that, not just the numbers. Jalen Hurts being 17th on this list is completely disrespectful. Jalen Hurts being behind Geno Smith is moronic. Jalen Hurts, I could say behind Matthew Stafford is wrong, but Stafford is 5th. Now, I know you're trying to effort last year's rankings, Connor, but you can put that on hold for a second. Would love to get your reaction to not only Hurts being 17th, but some of these other ones. Like Trevor Lawrence is not a top 10 quarterback right now.
No, he's definitely not 8. I'll tell you what, too. Justin Herbert being 4. I don't understand at all the Justin Herbert thing. Like, yeah, he's got the tools to be a really good quarterback. Has he been one? That I don't buy. Some of this stuff, I just don't know where they're building it from.
Right.
Like, is it just simply how their teams played this year because that's not evaluating the quarterback.
So here's the blurb. It says it's never too early to rank quarterbacks. Of course, we don't know who every team's starting quarterback will be yet. Some teams will draft one, and others will shuffle around their used parts via trade or free agency. A couple of teams might get stuck with the same old quarterback they tried and failed to get rid of. With that in mind, we'll stick with ranking the quarterbacks who either most recently started a significant amount of games last season or are almost certainly projected to be the starter next season for the time being. Think Aiden O'Connell for the former and Will Levis for the latter. Let's get started. Period. It's not like there's no based off of this statistic, based off of this is just. All right, if I'm going to rank my quarterbacks, part of me wonders, did they do the list and then go, oh, man, we forgot Jalen. Let me
throw him at 17.
Let me put him at 17. What?
I don't know, man. Geno Smith at 13 or 12 makes no sense. Kyler Murray at 11 makes no sense. Jordan Love at 10 makes no sense. I don't understand how they got to this, and I would take a significant amount of the quarterbacks ahead of Jalen Hurts on this list. I would take them after him.
Right. So, so like I said, there is a conversation. Jalen Hurts is not a top 2 quarterback in the NFL right now.
No.
He's not. But this isn't Madden. This isn't fantasy draft where you can get anybody you want. Jalen Hurts is your franchise quarterback. I know people soured on Jalen Hurts a little bit because of the way they played and he played. And I know people kind of crawled out from under the rock that were anti-Jalen Hurts people, and then they saw him have a bad season, so they did the whole, see, this is what I was telling you. I'm going to ignore what happened last year, but I'm going to tell this is what I was thinking. Even you got to agree. The biggest Jalen Hurts, I don't want to say hater, non-believer, the biggest non-believer of Jalen Hurts, I think even you can agree that he's 17th. So they did the write-ups on all these guys. I'm going to pick a few that I want to read to you. Obviously, I'll read you Jalen Hurts's. I have to read you Geno Smith's to try to figure out why they have Geno Smith at number 12 on this list. But let's go back to the phone, 610-632-0975. I will start the next segment with that. But let's go to Jerome in West Philly. Jerome, what's up, man?
What's up, Andrew?
How you doing, brother? I'm sure I'm bothering you today.
First of all, let me get the formalities out of the way. How's the pharmacist doing?
He's doing great, man. Pharmacist is doing good. He's eating like a champ, man. We went to breakfast the other day. He ate 2 scrambled eggs, a diner pancake. You know how big those are.
Oh, yeah.
And a full slice of bread with jelly and butter on it. He's not 2.
It seems like it was yesterday you had bottles in his mouth.
I know. He turns 2 next month, a month and a week from now. And my man ate a bigger breakfast than I did.
Yeah, my granddaughter and your son is around the same age at the same time. It's April 11th.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing how quick they grow up.
Yeah, okay. That's great, man. No.
Jerome is a Lakers fan, in case people are wondering.
No. First of all, unless you're giving up something of significance, that's not going to happen because we tanked when y'all tanked.
Well, hold on a second. I don't have to give up squat if he opts out of his contract.
Well, do you actually think they're going to let him go for nothing? They're signing trade.
He has the right to do whatever he wants.
Okay, well, look, if you want him, you can have him.
What, you're moving on?
But I don't see. You did exactly why I don't like him. You say he's the best player in the game, and how do you forget 8-24? Wasn't that part of your era?
Okay, I still go LeBron over Kobe.
He plays no defense. First of all, second of all, he's every year.
You are spitting in the face of a guy that won you at your most recent championship. I get it. Kobe was on your squad, so I understand you have a certain love for him.
He plays no defense, and look at our defensive ranking. And
he doesn't play defense in the regular season. No,
he doesn't play defense at all.
Dude, you guys got to the Western Conference Finals last year on his back.
And if he played defense, we'd have won it. Come on, man. I mean, I watch every game, Laker game, not Sixers game. So
I understand.
I know what I'm talking about. Hey, he's a matador out there, man.
All right, then I'll take him. Then you're going to let me have him. You just said, you know what? You're terrible when it comes to negotiation. You're asking for, man, I need all this stuff out of you. And then 5 seconds later, you go, you can have him. I don't like him.
Just like Rob Palenka.
Exactly.
Available.
Listen, LeBron is coming to Philadelphia, and then we're holding the trophy next season, man. I appreciate the call, Jerome. Always great hearing from you. I love Jerome. Jerome goes way back on this station.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible negotiation tactic.
Not his best. We'll take him, though.
Well, you're going to have to give up a lot. And then I wait 5 seconds. Yeah, but he doesn't play defense. I don't like him. You can take him.
Cool. All right. We'll trade you.
Here's why your team's losing. Like, you guys put way too much stock in Austin Reeves. The NBA has put too much stock in Austin Reeves. He's a nice ball player. Don't get me wrong, but like Austin Reeves is looked at as like this. You're gonna have to give up 4 first-round picks to get Austin Reeves. Really? Austin Reeves? He's a nice player. Austin Reeves? Come on, man.
What a stray caught by Austin Reeves there.
It's just that's why they're losing.
Yeah.
LeBron, just come to Philly, man. I would appreciate it. All right, we'll continue the conversation next. 610-632-0975. LeBron James already reports that he might opt out of the player option, and then he'll be a free agent. He'll take less money, obviously in hopes to play with Bronny. If I'm the Sixers, I'm drafting Bronny just to bring him on over here. I don't care. I'll set my franchise back because I don't think Bronny's going to be all that great. I'll set my franchise back, bring LeBron home, bring him to Philadelphia. The reason why I'm even having this conversation is there was a report that came out last night that the Sixers actually made calls for LeBron James before the trade deadline. And now there's all the talk about how he might opt out and be available. Interesting. And now let's react to this quarterback list. Congratulations, 33rd team. You got my click. Jalen Hurts ranked 17th among quarterbacks in the NFL, starting quarterbacks. 17th. He's not even in the top half, guys. Your thoughts on that? Are you in agreement? I would love to hear from you. And I'll read you the blurbs that they wrote for some of these quarterbacks. I got to read Geno Smith's. I don't understand how they have him 12th. Maybe that's the one they forgot to do and said, all right, let's put him somewhere. Oh, they've been a playoff team the last couple of years.
Hey, you're writing him off. He's not writing back.
It's just, it's unbelievable. The number to climb in is 610-632-0975. It's a Wednesday, so Matt Breen will be joining us coming up at 12:30 as he does every single week. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Hassan Reddick reacts. I'm Connor Thomas. This update is brought to you by Christians, another chili
from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It is 11:49 on the Midday Show. I'm Andrew Salchunas. Coming up at 12:30, we have Matt Brina, the Inquirer.com. He joins us every single Wednesday. And we have a lot of fun when Matt comes on because he can talk about quite literally any topic. He covers the world of sports. So we'll be able to talk to him about LeBron James, and we'll also be able to talk to him about this quarterback ranking list that has Jalen Hurts at number 17. Also, at some point this show, I will tell you how you can win, speaking of the Sixers, a pair of tickets. We have one more pair of tickets. We gave away a pair on Monday and Tuesday for tonight's game. Sixers playing the Miami Heat, so, Valentine's Day date, maybe. It's always a good date, right?
Yeah, sounds like a good
time. Go to
time.
the Sixers game. You get a bite to eat somewhere beforehand, and then you go to the Sixers game afterwards. It's always a good date going to a Sixers game, right? It's it's fun, it's different, it's lively. And then you get a drink afterwards. So you don't even have to do the drink before. You can do a drink, or you do it all, right? Do it all. So the Sixers always a great date night, especially on Valentine's Day. So I'll tell you how you can win that pair of tickets later on. So before I read the blurbs as to why the quarterbacks were ranked where they were ranked on this 33rd team, Jalen Hurts ranked 17th. Connor found last year's preseason ranking. And where was Jalen Hurts on that one?
So Hurts was 10th. And the explanation is really interesting.
Okay.
Because you remember, this is following a Super Bowl
where he played his rear end off.
Yeah. So it says Hurts is exceptional at three things: throwing go balls, running the ball, and avoiding turnovers. Ongoing. It says, that said, the Eagles' offense is made easy for Hurts from a scheme and talent standpoint. Hurts doesn't carry the same mental burden as the league's elite quarterbacks. That doesn't mean he can't, but until he does, it's hard to put Hurts in the same category as the guys who can.
All right, so I don't totally disagree with it, but at the same time, it's like, why is that fair to say? Because here's the deal. It's not Jalen Hurts' fault that he has A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith on his team.
Right.
Right? Like, should Jalen Hurts go to Howie and go, hey, Howie, I'm being disrespected about the way I play quarterback because you got me too much good talent. Do me a favor. Remember that year with Wentz when he had Deontay Burnett and Greg Ward and Jalen Reagor? Bring that band together so I can show them.
Why not?
And by the way, Gardner Minshew stepped in there and lost 2 games with that same extremely talented team. So I don't get why people always use that as a reasoning. I do and I don't, right? Because we're using it with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has the ability to play with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Brandon Aiyuk and Christian McCaffrey, and has a genius offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan. Maybe not a great head coach, but a genius offensive mind in Kyle Shanahan. And look what Brock Purdy was able to accomplish this season. So, we use that same energy on Brock Purdy, but we try not to use it with Jalen Hurts. It is legit. Like, if Patrick Mahomes had that kind of talent, Patrick Mahomes might throw for 8,000 yards.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
But he should still be, 10th is, I'll take 10.
But you understand that's 10 after the Super Bowl. And then you see this season, and they drop him to 17.
So here's the blurb for Hurts now. So you got that one, right? They were talking about the 3 good things that he does, but because of the players that he has around him, that's why they kept him down at 10. Okay. Right. Now let's see what the reasoning is for 17th. Jalen Hurts is a decent quarterback. That's the first sentence.
Come on. What are we doing here?
His athletic ability, when healthy, which is a big, that's true, and his accuracy down the field are enough to make him a beacon for offensive production. However, the rest of Hurts' game still leaves something to be desired. It's been 4 years with Hurts as a starting quarterback, and he still has issues managing tight pockets and throwing over the middle of the field. Well, hold on a second. Let me stop there. They didn't have guys run routes over the middle of the field.
No.
Like, they didn't have guys run routes. This is one of my biggest beefs with websites that don't follow the team for a living. Like, we were begging for them to run a route over the middle of the field. Like, of course his numbers over the middle of the field aren't great when he doesn't throw. By the way, his numbers are great over the middle of the field.
Yeah,
were you in with me that one day?
I wasn't, but I talked about
Tom
this.
or whatever, because Ray wasn't in that day.
He had like a 158 QBR.
He had a perfect quarterback rating, throws over the middle of the field from 10 to 20 yards.
Yep.
Perfect quarterback rating. The problem is they just didn't go over the middle of the field at all. So I'll continue. So many of their true drop back concepts are more static and less taxing than what most other top quarterbacks handle. Okay, hold on. So are you going to take away? Oh, he doesn't throw over the middle of the field well when he doesn't have really the ability to. Oh, his numbers aren't great. Look at those bubble screens. Like, man, they make it easy for him. Okay, the bubble screen sucks. Continues. In fairness, maybe that's not on Hurts. All right, that's good. But it is telling that the Eagles changed offensive coordinators in 2023, and nothing changed on that front. Hurts isn't a bad quarterback. He's accurate, especially downfield, and doesn't often put the ball in harm's way. What he offers in the run game is a major benefit. I just struggle to get over the bar with Hurts because of some of his inconsistencies as a true drop-back passer. Okay. Jalen Hurts isn't a perfect quarterback.
No.
But, all right, so that was their write-up for him at 17. The most egregious one is Geno Smith at 12.
He was at 11 in this other ranking.
Man, they love Geno Smith.
They just really like Geno.
All right, so here's what they say about Geno Smith, who was 5 spots higher than Hurts. And so because he was 11 on that list, that means he dropped 1. Hurts dropped 7 spots from last year to this year. Geno Smith dropped 1, still ahead of Hurts. All right, hold on. Remember the first sentence for Jalen Hurts was, Jalen Hurts is a decent quarterback. That was the first sentence for Hurts. Geno Smith is good. That's the first sentence for Geno Smith. Like, come on, what are we doing here? He's not special or unquestionably reliable like many of the quarterbacks above him, but he is firmly good. Most of what makes Stafford good also applies to Smith. The fearlessness in the pocket, the creativity, the raw arm talent to fit every window at all levels of the field. Smith is like an 85% version of Stafford. Smith handles a lot of the high difficulty aspects of quarterbacking well. Smith should be Seattle's quarterback in 2024, and there should be no question about it. If the Seahawks want to draft someone to develop behind him, fine, but Smith's job should not be in question this season. Geno Smith, at one point, seemed to be on his way out of the NFL. And because hold on a second, we're going to take away from Jalen Hurts because he plays with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but we're not going to mention anything that he plays with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Kenneth Walker. We're not going to take anything away from Geno Smith. There is, oh my God, it bothers me sometimes.
It should. I actually legitimately just looked at their LinkedIn page for the 33rd team to make sure that they weren't based out of Seattle, Washington.
It's just
they're based out of Florida.
That's just crazy to me. Like, look, whatever, guys have their opinions on things, but how can you say that Jalen Hurts is decent in one sentence and Geno Smith is good in the other? Like, Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Geno Smith, and there's no argument at all. All right, let's get back to the phones. By the way, speaking of this LeBron story, Ramona Shelburne will be joining us coming up at 1 o'clock. So nice. A little over an hour from now, Ramona Shelburne of ESPN will be joining us to talk about her post-deadline write-up that included the Sixers making a call to the Lakers, engaging the interest to see where they were at with LeBron James. Let's go to David in Drexel Hill. David, what's up, man?
Hey, how y'all doing? Hey, listen, if I took Jalen Hurts' record the last 2 seasons or 3 and compared it to these other top quarterbacks, other than Patrick Mahomes, and then they basically had the same record this year, didn't they, for the regular season?
They had the same exact record, yeah.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? They did nothing. Now, here's what I've been calling.
Now, I will say this: I don't really value wins losses for quarterbacks because you could be like Matthew Stafford had a tremendous career, but he was on a Lions team that was a mess for the majority of his career.
You don't value it. If I'm only winning 3 games a year and you winning 14,
right, yeah, I get you.
Quarterback got to get some credit, even if you're on a dominant team.
Right, I agree with you there. Yes,
but here's the reason I'm really calling you guys, because y'all basically wanted to fuse to tell the truth. I watched every quarterback in the playoffs this year, and the boy from Baltimore, he couldn't carry. I wouldn't even let him carry Jalen Hurts sneaks after the last game he played. That was ridiculous. And then you take Patrick Mahomes, right? He was horrible in that game, but he came through at the end. That really counts.
Right. Well, so that's why. Yeah, that's why he's not. That's why he's number 1.
Yeah, that's what. But the truth is, every mistake that Jalen Hurts has made during the season, all these quarterbacks did in the playoffs. You would think he could. Look at.
Oh, that's what. I guess you didn't listen. I based my entire show yesterday off of you, David.
Oh, did you?
I mentioned your name like 8 times on the show yesterday.
You know what? One of the guys from the VA did say something like that.
Yeah, that's
now
awesome.
we all listen to y'all at the
You're the
VA.
man. You're the man.
Yes. So it's nice. But Jalen Hurts, here's what he really got to do. He got to go out and he got to kick some butt. Otherwise, and then some people still ain't going to talk good about him, but that's what he got to do.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad the ranking is like that because that's going to get on him. And
he loves he loves going up against the disrespect. David, I appreciate the call. Thank you. By the way, the reason why his name was mentioned a lot during the show yesterday. So Monday, Connor, was obviously reaction to Super Bowl and everything. I asked the question on Monday, when you watch the Chiefs and the 49ers, how far off are the Eagles from those teams? And David called in at one point during the show Monday and was like, look, I hear what you're saying about the defense and everything, but I watched two quarterbacks not play all that great.
Yeah.
And he used the Super Bowl as a positive for Jalen Hurts.
I totally agree with David. Like, I watched that game and I thought, well, Mahomes is unbelievable. He's kind of got that.
Yeah, he's going to win
magic.
Regardless. Yeah.
He may never lose again.
Right.
But it's not the dominance of, I don't know who I'd even put that on. They looked beatable. Both those teams did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the Eagles did beat the Chiefs this year. I know no one wants to hear that, but the Eagles went on the road and beat the Super Bowl champions this year. They had issues, but you could fix those and have a really high ceiling.
Yeah, especially when you look at the talent in the NFC or lack of talent in the NFC. If you're talking specifically about the quarterback position, I mean, the team that was, if we're basing it off this list, right, which you shouldn't base your opinion off of a list, right? Jalen Hurts is 17th on this. The team that was just in the Super Bowl, they have Purdy at 18.
Right.
The team that beat you in the playoffs, the Eagles, the team that beat you, the Buccaneers, they have Mayfield at 20 on this list. The other teams out of the NFC that were in the playoffs, Goff is just at 14. Jordan Love is at 10, and his stock will be continuing to rise. And then Dak's at 6, Stafford's at 5. And you could say they're ranked too high or too low or whatever, but Matt Stafford and Dak Prescott sending shivers down your spine?
Not remotely.
And those are your quarterbacks in the NFC. The top three are AFC quarterbacks, Mahomes, Jackson, and Allen, right?
Yeah, we know
and
the discrepancy.
Top four, Herbert's fourth on this list.
Yeah, the AFC's stacked. The NFC's not. This is your window. That's why you've got a real good look at this if you can just figure out the coaching and put a couple nicer players on the defense.
Yeah, which is why, I then did the show yesterday was what positive did you take away from the Super Bowl, because it was based off of David's call from Monday. And really my biggest thing was this offense is still really good. It was just run terribly last year. Like Kellen Moore, do I think Kellen Moore is the greatest thing since sliced bread? No. But I would imagine he has a pulse.
I think so.
The offense didn't. The offense was dead and had been dead for 2 months. Let's go back to the phone. Let's go to Malik in North Philly. What's up, Malik?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
How you doing, man?
Hey, man. So I want to address both this Jalen Hurts thing and the LeBron thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to split time. I ain't going to take too much. Listen, so let's start with this Jalen Hurts thing. These people who are doing these reports, man, like, are they on drugs? Are we drug testing these people?
No, they're football guys, Malik.
Oh, really?
They're football guys. That's what their entire website is based off of, football.
Oh, wow. I went on their website. It looks pretty green to me. You would think that, they're Geno Smith or, Seattle fans. I'm glad you guys did the research. But, listen, when I tell you, Jalen has, these last 4 years have been, first season, okay, subpar. Second season, we get that, had that great season. Then it's like, my thing is the Super Bowl, and it's like, bro, like, just relax. Like, he's still coming into it. So, he got the money, so it's a lot of pressure. But, I think that we have a great time. We might even go back to the Super Bowl, but I'm loving the fact that it's an underdog mentality from here on out.
Oh, we love the underdog mentality in this city. I want to be top dog for once, but I get it. Everybody loves the underdog.
No, really. And then, listen, this thing about the year that we did win the Super Bowl, that mentality that we came in, nobody expected us to win.
Yep.
They had much other teams, they had the Cowboys, and look at Dak ranked 6. It's like, come on, bro. Like, this guy is literally being downplayed by his whole team and their family members. Come on now. Like, let's get it together.
Yep. Now, what do you got on Bron?
I'm a LeBron fan. I'm a big time LeBron fan. And when I tell you, I look at the leadership that, he's shown over the years as far as taking 3 different, organizations to a championship and winning and being the best player on those teams as well. Of course, if we want him in Philly, he's at an age where, he's still like one of the top 10 players in the league. He's averaging 25, 7, and 7.
Still is.
Are we kidding ourselves? You mean to tell me you don't want to see that? And with a young Maxey, that's like a young Kyrie that's really coming into itself, that never was in a winning Eastern Conference championship type of situation. Like he comes here, we automatically are.
You're automatically championship contenders. And thanks for the call, Malik. Like immediately, the second LeBron steps on here, you're already a championship contender. I know people don't agree with that either, with Joel Embiid, but you bring in LeBron James. I mean, it's no question. And my biggest thing is I just don't understand the energy spent against the idea of it. Like if you come on here and say, look, it's going to set your franchise back 10 years. Okay, I'll hear you out. If you win a title, well, it's been 40 years. So that would be nice. The rafters are, they haven't gone up there to clean the banners in a while.
The Sixers set their team back for 10 years for fun.
Right, exactly.
We've been through this. Might as well get something out of it.
So, and by the way, once you start winning championships, maybe you become a destination, So it's been 40 years. I'll run the risk of hopefully winning one. And if it takes a couple of years to get back to being a legitimate playoff championship contender, okay, so be it, you won, finally. Look at what do you think the Raptors are complaining that they traded for Kawhi?
Not remotely.
No. They saw it, that's basically what it is. Like, if we're being honest, now Kawhi at that stage will be better than what LeBron would be here, even though LeBron's still a freak.
Here's the difference. LeBron is not the best player on this team.
No, it would still be Joel Embiid.
He's the best player on the planet.
And Tyrese Maxey is taking this leap forward, right? And I think LeBron coming in here also makes them better on and off the court. Not that I think Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey are problem childs, right? But there's a culture that comes in here with him. I don't get it. Maybe Tasty Cake Dom can talk some sense into me. What's up, Dommy?
Andrew, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I want to talk about LeBron, but the one thing that, as you were reading off the names, I know that they're penalizing Jalen for that collapse, but Trevor Lawrence is still on the top. That Jacksonville collapse was pretty close to the Eagles collapse.
Eighth. This is what they say.
I think they were 7-2.
This is what they said about Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence's early career continues to be turbulent. The Calvin Ridley trade was not as impactful as many hoped, and Jacksonville's offensive line took a step back in 2023, an issue that hindered its pass protection and ability to run the ball. Yet, Lawrence's individual play remains impressive. Lawrence handles pressure well, plays with exceptional timing, and is more than willing to test tight windows. If anything, Lawrence's accuracy is merely good rather than great, like some others at the top of the list. But he's still a plenty effective quarterback. Like, the wording of that doesn't make me think top 10.
Yeah, that was as you read them off, Andrew, that was the name that's like, I don't get that one. A couple of the other ones, but I don't get that one. So LeBron, I just can't believe that people would argue against getting LeBron James.
It's crazy.
Now, right off the top, what he brings to you, right, Andrew, is he's got to be one or two in playoff games played, right? It's got to be.
I would imagine,
His teams go deep. They make it every year. I mean, he's got to be 1-2.
He's number one with 282. Derek Fisher is second with 259.
Wow. And you and Connor know how the NBA works, right, Andrew? There's 5-6 guys historically in my lifetime. There's 5-6 guys in the league that in close playoff games they get calls.
Right.
And LeBron James is one of those guys.
Yep.
And that's a huge advantage to bring to a team is, he's going to get
there's a million advantages, which is why I don't understand people that are against it. And thanks for the call, Dommy. Like, I don't understand why anybody would be against it. I don't know. If you have a basketball reasoning as to why you are against LeBron James coming to Philadelphia, please tell me why. Now, let me do this because this might be easier for some of you. If you have a non-basketball reason, tell me why. And then maybe we'll just figure out how ridiculous that might be. Because if you have pride, like if it's pride over anything else, like I mean it. I know that there are people that want to build it the right way. I don't want to buy my championship.
Nope.
Dude. Back the Brinks truck up, man. Like I'm buying anything.
Yes.
The Raptors literally, you can make the case, bought a championship by trading for Kawhi Leonard. They knew that it was a one shot. They knew they had one shot, and they're still probably celebrating up north.
Yeah, the champagne tastes the same either way, folks.
Yes. Yeah, so if it's non-basketball related, we can talk about it because here's the deal. This conversation is not going to go away. It might be a one-off before the season's over. Like today might be the only day we do it. But once the season ends and stuff starts coming out, until he actually opts into that contract and we know how long it took with James Harden, the conversation is going to be happening all off season. So let's talk about it. 610-632-0975. Coming up next, Matt Breen of the Inquirer, Inquirer.com, will join the show to talk about the LeBron James stuff, to talk about the Eagles conversation with having faith in Howie Roseman, his reaction to Jalen Hurts being 17th on this list among quarterbacks in the NFL, and also, you've mentioned it in the updates multiple times. I've yet to talk about it. Pitchers and catchers report today, which is just it's a holiday.
Well,
what?
It's 2 holidays, but
I told you the other one's fake. I started the show with it.
I got you.
Pitchers and catchers reporting today is more important in my life than Valentine's Day, and I'm a married man.
Well, yeah.
I
mean,
show my love and appreciation for my wife every day.
You might say that. Does she feel the same?
Probably not. 610-632-0975, the number to climb in. Also, Ramona Shelburne of ESPN will join the show at 1 o'clock to talk more about this LeBron James nugget that she dropped in her post-deadline story. I love it. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Sixers to take on the Heat. I'm Connor Thomas. This update is brought to you by Bradford White Water Heaters. When you need a new water heater, choose one that is built to be the best. Choose Bradford White. The Sixers were off last night. They're going to wrap up their pre-
975thefanatic.com.
It is 12:19, 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas on the Midday Show. 12 o'clock hour, brought to us by Service First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at servicefirsthvac.com. All right. Ramona Shelburne, who wrote the post-deadline article on ESPN.com that had the story that Daryl Morey called Rob Pelinka the Lakers and was just checking in about LeBron James. LeBron James, of course, will stay with the Lakers for the remainder of the season, but he's got an opt-out after this season's over. It's a player option. It's $51.4 million, which is basically probably nothing for LeBron James at this point. LeBron, there have already been reports, may be willing to opt out and take less money in order to play with Bronny. If Bronny doesn't come into the draft this year and stays one more year at USC, I would imagine that he stays with the Lakers, but we'll see what Ramona Shelburne's thinking, right? Like, it's not a crazy report that Daryl Morey made the call, but it's just interesting to start thinking, so the Sixers made a call, huh? And remember a couple weeks ago, LeBron was tweeting, complaining about the people that were ripping Joel Embiid. Remember that? He was all Joel Embiid up on social media. You know, just something to keep an eye on.
Just connecting dots. What's going on in Los Angeles?
What's going on in L.A., man? So Ramona's going to join us at 1. We got Matt Breen coming up in 10 minutes at 12:30 to talk about that. Also, the Jalen Hurts being ranked 17th on this quarterback ranking. Let me read this. Let's see what they said about Stafford. If you're just tuning in, there's a quarterback list out there from the 33rd team, which is a big football website. Strictly football, right? That's all they do. So it's not even like a click thing. It's not like ESPN or Fox or anything like that. They have Hurts 17. The guys right behind him, Purdy at 18, Tua Tagovailoa at 19, Baker Mayfield at 20. The guys ahead of him, Anthony Richardson at 16, which, here, let me read what that one says. Because how can Anthony Richardson be ahead of Jalen?
He looked really good in 3 games this year.
It's easy to forget now, but Anthony Richardson had people as excited as Stroud did for the first month of the season. That's true. Richardson looked way more put together than most analysts anticipated right out of the gate. He was making quick, correct decisions with the ball and throwing aggressively over the middle. He was unafraid to hang in the pocket and make difficult throws, and you could see glimpses of high-level ability to decipher defenses. The only thing Richardson needs to fix next season is his safety. He needs to protect himself better than contact, which Jackson and Murray also had to learn. If Richardson can do that, I have faith that the rest will come along, and he will finish higher on this list by the end of the 2024 season. So they, like you said, 3 games. They base that.
Yeah, that's great. It's not like Hurts went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence, by the way, 8th on this list. I just pulled up quickly some of the numbers. He threw for a little over 4,000 yards, 2,000 more yards than Jalen Hurts. Or 200 more yards, excuse me.
I was going to say.
Yeah, that would have been an incredible season. 200 more yards, not even 200 more yards than Jalen Hurts. Hurts threw for more touchdown passes. And, oh, by the way, rushed for a bajillion touchdown passes. And Hurts threw 15 picks to Trevor Lawrence's 14. Hurts' QBR 60.1. Trevor Lawrence's 56.1. So the numbers across the board better for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, almost like he's a better quarterback right now.
Yeah. But, there's the idea that Trevor Lawrence could get better still, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they have Matt Stafford at 5. This is what they said about Stafford. Matthew Stafford found a second wind. After a tumultuous, injury-riddled 2022 season, Stafford looked as though he was declining, but he bounced back in a serious way in 2023. Stafford was the epitome of a gunslinger. He sat back in the pocket and fired the ball into tight windows all over the field, often while pressured or finding unique arm angles to get the ball out. He still has a few bizarre misfires a game, same as he ever was, but Stafford's best plays more than make up for the handful of oopsies. Health permitting, Stafford will remain one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I like Matt Stafford. Don't get me wrong. I like him. I don't think he's a top 5 quarterback or 5th. Now, I don't think Herbert is 4th, and they have Herbert on here at number 4. It seems like a lot of the stuff is standing in the pocket that they really like, and Jalen Hurts does not do that. I mean, every single quarterback that's been ahead of Jalen Hurts, they've mentioned pocket presence.
Yeah, except for a guy like Lamar, who I believe is 2.
Yeah, he
and
is 2.
You can't deny it because he's the MVP.
Right, exactly. Whatever. Jalen Hurts is 17th on this list, so we'll react to that with Matt coming up. Now, pitchers and catchers report today. You've been mentioning it in your updates. The guys are wearing full uniform, which I find strange.
Hey, practice how you play. Come on.
They're going full uniform in their bullpen session.
Yeah, that's weird.
Is it? You know what they probably did? They probably did the photos.
You think like the roster pictures today and then?
No, not because it's pitchers and catchers.
Right, but still.
They probably did their individual photo shoots. You know how?
Oh, that's what I mean.
The floating, the flipping the ball. It's the typical like returns on when it's the national broadcast. It's Zach Wheeler holding out the 4-seam grip, right? Like that's the typical. It's the same thing. It's like the football twirl, right? Any NFL draft, it's the same 3 freaking poses that every player does. So they probably did that and then went out into the field to work out. That's my guess. Other than that, it's weird. Usually they just wear
shorts
like
and t-shirt.
Shorts and t-shirt, especially early, or they do the baseball pants with like the warm-up shirt. But they're going full unis out there, man.
Hey, man, they're zoned in.
And then the videos are great. The sights and sounds of baseball, the popping of the mitts. We were talking about the cleats during the break, right? It's great. So, pitchers and catchers report. So, I got Mr. Baseball on the other side, Connor Thomas. I don't really plan on talking much baseball yet, but I would like to get your thoughts on this offseason now that I have you here.
Yeah.
They're still going to be a good baseball team.
Very good baseball team.
It was deflating.
No, like I get it. But getting cold in 2 games doesn't make you bad. Like,
correct.
People look at the result of the season and they associate that with the skill level of the team. This team is so darn good. Like, they are. They're incredibly talented. They're stacked in the lineup. They have a great rotation. Like, everyone who's freaking out about the moves they're not making, realize that they have been the best National League team for the past 2 years. Like, they have been.
Mm-hmm.
What other team has gone to the World Series and then their championship series? Only one other team in baseball has done that over the past 2 years, and it's the Houston Astros. Are we looking at the Astros like they're a bad team?
No.
Are we looking at the Astros like why didn't they sign Ohtani? Like, when you're this close,
it's just not just Ohtani.
No, I know,
and
but
Yamamoto.
My point is, when you're this close, you don't make splash moves. You have a lot of stuff stacked up in positions and starters.
You could.
Where?
You could. All right, so let's bring up Soler the other day. He signed 3 years, which I know is more than any other. Like, I'm pretty sure he's the only team that offered him a multi-year deal. He's been living off of 1-year deals the last couple of years. So he could have been your everyday left fielder.
Okay.
Castellanos in right field. And then it's the platoon of Marsh and Rojas, who Rojas, when the season ended, they were saying was going to start in the minors. Now that may change because you have zero depth whatsoever. You bring in Soler, he's gonna hit 30 bombs for you. Now I know he strikes out a lot, and that's kind of the MO of this team. But so does Marsh.
Well, here's the thing.
So does Rojas.
You can't platoon Marsh and Rojas.
Why?
Because those guys need too many at bats at the major league level. You need to know if you have something, and you can't have Rojas playing like 2 times a week. Like it's just not.
What if he can't hit? And so you're going to go full season?
Then you know what you do. You hope that the 7 billion star players you have on this team are enough to carry it. And the manager, who's been good enough to get you deep in the postseason, can make up for it.
Okay.
And then at the trade deadline, you make an acquisition. What? Are you afraid of a slow start to the season? They've done it the past 2 years and it's worked out.
Well, I wouldn't mind if they didn't have a slow start to the season.
Well, me either. My point is you can't block those 2 guys, Marsh and Rojas, from figuring out whether or not they're major league hitters. And if you bring in a guy like Soler, he's going to want to play every day. And one of the things that Dave Dombrowski's brought up this offseason is they just don't have the playing time for some of these free agents.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at.
I mean, if I'm being honest, and I like Rojas, and I go Marsh or Rojas right now, and I'm not the biggest Marsh guy.
I agree.
Sorry, Johan. I got Jorge Soler.
You got Jorge Soler for now. And then Castellanos is gone, Schwarber's gone, JT's gone.
And Rojas spends a year in the minors work on his craft.
But that's exactly.
I'm sorry, Johan. You're like 20 years old.
And then defensively in the outfield.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if it's Marsh in center, Rojas in the minors, and then Soler and Castellanos in the outfield, you're minus defensively again.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man.
You're better than Schwarber in left field was so late.
I'm better than Schwarber. Okay, no, I'm not.
All right. Before we get to Breen, there was a signing from the Phillies yesterday.
Oh, a big one.
David Buchanan. So the Phillies signed David Buchanan to a minor league deal. I'm sure there's a lot of people going, wait, why does that name sound familiar? He was a starting pitcher for the Phillies back in the 2014 and 15 seasons. Slop, right? Slop right-handed pitcher. He then eventually goes to the KBO. I 100% bet on David Buchanan. Do you remember COVID when there was only one league going on? It was the KBO. I 100% bet on a money line game with David Buchanan on the mound. I know for a fact I did. They signed him yesterday. So, of course, a lot of fun on social media with, like, the blast from the past. There's a guy, Luke Arsani or Arcani. I apologize. Everybody says my last name incorrectly, so, deal with it. Freddie, he was the starting lineup the last time David Buchanan pitched in Major League Baseball for the Phillies.
Oh, Galvis up there has to be.
He was the leadoff hitter.
Yeah.
Freddie Galvis, Aaron Altair batted second, Mike Calfranco third, Darren Ruff fourth, Frenchie, Jeff Francoeur was fifth. How about that Andres Blanco batted sixth, Eric Kratz at first base batted seventh because Cameron Rupp was behind the dish, and then David Buchanan was your starting pitcher. Yeah, they brought it back. So the offseason, it's going in the right direction for the Phillies. Let's head to the Comcast Business Hotline and talk about all of it from the Inquirer, Inquirer.com on a Breen Day. My man, Matt Breen. Matty, what's going on, man? How are you today?
What's up, Andrew? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm going to let you pick first. Do you want to go Eagles or do you want to go Sixers first?
I thought we were going to talk 2015 Phillies.
We can also do that because I know you were on the beat back then. So let me ask you, David Buchanan, that's a blast from the past.
It was. I did not expect to see that yesterday. And then the tweet that you just read with the lineup from that day was just amazing. It feels much longer than, 8-9 years ago? It's just a lot of blast from the past.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like, all those guys are either out of the league, retired, not good enough, or they're nothing, right? Like, they didn't even unearth a player from that. Freddie Galvis, you could say, has had a good career. But other than that, was anybody unearthed during those days?
I wish Aaron Nola was in that rotation. He had probably been shut down by that point, but he was in the majors.
Yeah, that's a good point. So a blast from the past. Dave Buchanan signed the minor league deal. Matt, so we are let's go with the Eagles first because I would love to get your thoughts on this. Do you know the website, the 33rd Team?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're a big NFL website. They did their quarterback ranking. They have Jalen Hurts 17th on this list. That's ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, it's just I feel like they did this last year too with the rankings, and there was something crazy about it.
So he was 10th last year on their ranking.
It was somebody else was like way out of whack, and it was like a thing last year too. Like it's almost like they make these lists to go viral and put somebody where they don't belong, and then so everybody talks about it and gets angered about it. And it was the same website, it was the same graphic. That I didn't even go on the website. You see somebody.
You see the graphic, yeah.
Tweet it, yeah, and then it's like you can't actually believe that's where Hurts belongs. Not that I think we have questions and concerns about.
No, of course.
But to put him there, it's really you're just trying to create controversy.
And it's funny the wording, I don't totally disagree with. Like they mentioned, like he didn't stand tall in the pocket enough, and but then like one of the sentences was. He didn't throw over the middle of the field. Well, they didn't run routes over the middle of the field. Right? Like that was one of our biggest issue with this offense is that they had no over the middle of the field presence. And there was nothing mentioned about like they mentioned that they changed coordinators, but almost that was Hurts should have overcome that, right? Like it's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's an insane list. And like I don't put much credence in it. I saw it yesterday. And it was like, all right, it's just another dumb internet thing where there's an opinion every day.
Yep.
And so many of these opinions are purposely wrong to create attention. And now you're talking about it, right?
But it makes for content on sports radio in the middle of February, Matt.
It works.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the other thing that we're talking about today, and I'm actually going to speak with Ramona Shelburne coming up at 1 o'clock. She and Woj did an article, a post-deadline article, and I'm sure you saw it because it made its rounds on social media. I saw it this morning. That's what I woke up to. And that the Sixers called the Lakers and just wanted to see what was going on with LeBron James. My first question is, was there anything real to that, do you think, or was that just Daryl Morey doing his job?
I'm sure. I mean, again, LeBron puts that emoji tweet out, and everybody is wondering. Even Daryl Morey must be wondering what that means. So he's doing his due diligence as a executive in the NBA to check in on that and see if is the greatest player of all time available at the trade deadline. So I believe that. I'm sure that happened, and then quickly shot down by Rob Poinke asking if Joel Embiid's available, which I thought was funny. A funny way to shut down the conversation.
Yes, it was a funny way to start shut down the conversation. But I'm telling you right now, Matt, today marks the day LeBron the Philly watch for me. Because there's already been reports, this was before this story came out, that, obviously the Bronny James factor is still out there. He's willing to opt out of his contract. He has a player option after this season. According to reports, he's willing to take less money. We'll see if that's actually true. And play wherever Bronny's at. And I'm telling you right now, Matt, if I'm the Sixers, I'm drafting him in a heartbeat because anybody that thinks it's going to set the franchise back, the franchise hasn't won in 40 years. So what do I care?
It would be amazing. Like when they had, it was now, 5 years ago. It feels like forever ago when Brett Brown went out there and
star hunting.
LeBron, but they had the meeting. And
yes.
It was like that one Sunday where everybody was kind of holding their breath, waiting to see if LeBron was going to come to Philly. It would be incredible if that happened. But again, it's like I feel like we've had LeBron the Philly watch multiple times in the last handful of years.
Oh, I'll dust it off.
Yeah,
I don't care.
It's a dream. But I don't know if I could see it happening. But if Embiid's healthy and LeBron wants to win and he wants to, it's a good spot to come into. Plus with they freedom this offseason that the Sixers should have with all the money and assets to go out and do something that they can almost build a whole brand new team around, LeBron and then LeBron and Embiid. And if you want to put his son on the team too, there's space for him.
My biggest question for people that don't want it, because, there's people that don't want LeBron James. My question for people today was, all right, give me the reason why from a basketball standpoint. I don't think you can come up with one. The only thing you can be worried about is, all right, when you sign him, it might change the roster a little bit. But again, what if you won? So why should I care? The first guy that was going to call in, he ended up dropping off, unfortunately. But he said he doesn't fit on this roster. A, that's not true. And B, you make it work.
Yeah, your roster fits to LeBron. That would be like a team saying Embiid doesn't fit on our roster.
Right.
You make your roster fit to the star player, the superstars in the NBA. That's how you win. And I wouldn't even begin to wonder what an argument against LeBron was. Like if the Sixers went out and traded for LeBron a week ago and people were be unhappy about that, I would just be, I wouldn't even know what you wouldn't be unhappy about. It would be, again, I don't think it's going to happen. I remember talking about this last summer too, but it would just be incredible. And I think there's only positives that come from that. And you hope that you make a move like that in any sport is that it's going to result in like an immediate championship window. It's like right there.
Now, just because they didn't land this Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer, it was a big week for the Northeast out there, Matt. Kyle Lowry comes to the Sixers.
Yeah,
your thoughts?
He's from North Philly, though. So we will. I will not.
Okay.
Feel the ownership of Kyle Lowry, but I think it's great. I think it's a guy that obviously not only is he a Philly guy and he's tough, but he's won and he knows what it takes to win in the playoffs. And I think he's going to bring that to the locker room. And I think it's a great move. He still can play. He's not going to, take over for Tyrese Maxey.
Right.
But I think he can still come off in that second unit and make that second unit better and also make those guys tougher. We've talked every summer about how the Sixers got eliminated from the playoffs and they weren't tough enough. Well, Kyle Lowry is probably one of the toughest guys in the NBA. So you're bringing that attitude in there. I love it. And I know. Also, I just love when the Sixers get guys from Philly. It doesn't happen all that often. So when they do it, it's cool.
Especially when you lost Morris, right? You make the trade to get Buddy Hield, and then you get another Philadelphian later on. It's great.
Like, you finally had a Philly guy. He gets traded. Now you get, like, the ultimate Philly guy in Kyle Lowry. And the cool thing about him is he actually grew up in North Philly in a house that was once had rooftop bleachers attached to it for Connie Mack Stadium.
Oh, is that right?
So that was one of his childhood home was a house that, way back when was a rooftop bleacher. So pretty cool. And then he obviously went to Doherty. Doherty has a rich history of basketball. Played in the Catholic League on one of the coolest. They didn't win, but they were one of the coolest Catholic League basketball teams of all time. And then goes to Nova, was obviously great at Nova for 2 years.
Yeah.
And one of those guys that you watch from afar as like a Philly guy, and he represented Philly wherever he went, had a really cool NBA career where he was kind of had to make himself, a star. Wasn't a star right away. And now he's coming home to possibly finish his career. It's pretty neat.
It is neat. Now, Matt, happy holiday, not Valentine's Day. That one's fake. Happy pitchers and catchers reporting today for your fighting Phils.
A day after we shovel snow, so that's always good to see.
Exactly. You going to go down at all to Clearwater?
I'm not sure. I have not been back to spring training since I left the Phillies beat. But it's every year. It's like, I'll get back, and then something happens. Like last year, the Super Bowl, and it was like that bled in this pitchers and catchers.
Right.
Like, never mind. But like, if there's a story that I want to do, I would go down. But I'm not really like. I don't know. I'm not itching to go down. I have enough to do.
Give it a couple more cold weeks, and you'll be itching to get down there.
If it snows again next week, I'll be heading.
Yeah. You'll find a story. Don't you worry. Speaking of, what do we got coming up on the Inquirer, Matt?
I wrote a story today about Kevin Stefanski. He's from the area, Cleveland Browns head coach. Wins the AP Coach of the Year last week at the NFL Honors, but they announced the winner is his cousin, and they just messed up. Stefanski ended up being Steve Stefanski instead of Kevin. So I talked to Steve Stefanski, and he had fun with it. I was like, this is a silly story. Play along. He played along. He's so funny and cool about it. He coaches a CYO basketball team in Westchester, and here he's the NFL Coach of the Year. So then I get a text on Monday from Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I heard you talk to Steve. Like, if you want to talk, I'll call you tomorrow. So, here's like the NFL Coach of the Year sending me a text to talk about his cousin. It was just a fun story. They both were cool. They both played along, and it ended up being, a funny story about how this botch at the NFL Honors ended up being like a joke in this family.
That's awesome. Matt, I love your work, man. I always love reading your stuff, and it's exciting. So can't wait to read that one, and can't wait to talk to you again next week. All right.
Hopefully, I'm going to track down some of those guys from that Doherty team.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I think we know how to find one pretty easily.
Yeah.
You can find him on the TV somewhere.
Exactly.
All right, Matt. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. There he is, Matt Breen from the Inquirer, Inquirer.com. Of course, that's Pat Gallen. Yeah, former member of 97.5 The Fanatic. Now a member of CBS.
Yes.
CBS 3 and former teammate of Kyle Lowry.
And a great head of hair on that guy.
Oh, yeah, and tremendous. Beats yours.
Well, yeah, I'm wearing a hat today. If I let this flow
even when
go,
even when you're
wait till I grow this out to where I want it.
He's got a good head of hair.
We'll see.
All right, coming up next. So we just spoke with Matt Breen, and we talked about the Ramona Shelburne piece about LeBron James and the Eagle and the Sixers showing some interest. Well, we'll talk to the source. Ramona Shelburne going to be joining the show coming up at 1 o'clock. We'll get to some of your calls before that at 610-632-0975. LeBron Watch starts again today. Are you in or are you out? And if you're out, you got to explain to me why. I'll open it up to non-basketball reasons now, but seriously, from a basketball standpoint, how could you not want LeBron James on this basketball team? It makes no sense to me. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
A holiday for the Phils. I'm Connor Thomas. This update is brought to you by Mattress Firm. Don't miss huge limited time savings on better sleep during Mattress Firm's President's Day sale. Shop in-store today to score a Sleepy's Queen mattress for only $89.99. But hurry, Supplies are limited. Yes, it's a holiday for the Phillies and baseball fans out there. Not talking about Valentine's Day. No, pitchers and catchers report to Clearwater, Florida today to officially kick off spring training for 2024. We'll keep you updated on any news out of the Phillies camp. Hassan Reddick has responded to the Eagles allowing him to seek a trade by saying that he never specifically asked out and he understands it's a business, but he's hoping he stays here. So we'll keep you updated on how those contract negotiations play out. The Sixers and Flyers were both off last night. The Sixers will round out their pre-All-Star break schedule with a contest against the Miami Heat at home tonight at 7 p.m. You can hear that game right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And the Flyers, off again tonight, will be in Toronto taking on the Maple Leafs tomorrow night. You just heard Matt Breen talk a little bit about the Sixers, the Eagles, the Phillies, everything. You can hear that full podcast re-aired on our website, 975thefanatic.com. And Ramona Shelburne joins the show coming up at 1 p.m. to talk about some interesting news surrounding LeBron James and the Sixers inquiring about him. I'm Connor Thomas, and breaking news all day, every day is here. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
John Kincaid, Bob Cooney, Pat Egan. Listen for the big storylines in Philly sports that matter to you. The John Kincaid Show, weekday mornings 6 to 10, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Look, it's cold outside, right? Frosty, freezy in the mornings. Must be February. So if you finally had enough of the frigid drafts coming through your windows and the frustration of getting those energy bills, it's time to fight the February cold. You're going to get quality replacement windows now from Window Nation. So for this month only, replace your windows and save big with 50% off all style windows. Plus, 0 down, 0 interest, and no payments for 24 months. It's the shortest month of the year, but this is the best deal. The professional installation teams have over 10 years of experience. Plus, they can install your new windows in 1 day or less, and they come with a lifetime warranty. With proven quality and service, there's no wonder that thousands of homeowners trust Window Nation, and you know you can too. So don't miss out. With 50% off and 0 down, plus 0 interest and no payments for 24 months, you cannot afford to wait. And it's easy. All you do is call 866-90NATION after you've already done your window shopping online at windownation.com, and then you can schedule your free in-home estimate.
This winter, cozy up to a home that's perfectly yours with Preferred Pros. From skilled craftsmen and expert designers to top veterinarians and relaxing pools and spas, we've got the best recommendations for you. Let us help you make your dream project a reality. Your home, your life, our professionals. Connect with Preferred Pros you can trust.
Get the quality electrical repair services you need. When you choose Horizon Services, an electrician will be on time, fully stocked for same-day repair or next-day installations.
could be yours.
WPEN and WPEN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It's 12:51 on the Midday Show. I'm Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Midday Show. Coming up in about 9 minutes, we will be joined by Ramona Shelburne. She wrote the piece with Woj, the deadline write-up, post-deadline write-up, where Daryl Morey made a call to LeBron, or call to the Lakers about LeBron, and it was quickly turned down. But it makes you think about future chances, because it's already been reported that he is open to opting out to play with Bronny. And so Ramona's out in the LA area, and she's very connected, right? So we'll talk to her. I'm also interested to hear what she's been hearing about Joel, because there's a connection there too. So I would love to get her input on the latest with Joel Embiid and what the Sixers are trying to do and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we'll get into the Sixers. It's not just going to be 10 minutes about LeBron James, but I'll be honest, that was the genesis of me texting her to have her on the show. So she comes your way in 8 minutes. Topper had a press conference today. Here's one of the quotes. The players are motivated, Connor. We've had 2 years of tasting it. They want it. They want to take a big chunk out of it and swallow it. So there you go, Dylan. You can play that Friday.
Love that.
Yeah.
Now
here's the question. Do they play me saying it, or do they go back and get Topper saying it? Or is it easier just to grab me saying it?
Yeah, it's easier just grabbing you saying it.
Yeah, okay. So, that's coming your way Friday. What time?
40.
Come on, man. Come on, Topper. Like, why you got to do me like that? Jeez.
You're the one who read it.
There's another one.
Come on, man.
There's another one.
Let's get to it.
You're welcome for the content. Let's go. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Jay on the cell. What's up, Jay?
Hey, how are you guys?
How you doing, man? Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
I just wanted to comment on what you said about Jalen Hurts being 17 on that list.
Yeah.
I'm actually cool with it. Remember his first year, everybody doubted his arm strength, but it was championship caliber, and he went out and just grinded the entire offseason.
Yeah, you're cool with it because you think he's going to prove everyone wrong. I'm just talking from a pure, football standpoint. Like, how can somebody act? Like, how can somebody put him at 17? I get what you're saying, though, the motivation factor.
Yeah, and, I mean, if you're on the list behind Geno Smith, what more motivation?
And Kirk Cousins. I haven't even gotten a Cousins write-up yet, but Kirk is 13th.
So it's like just knowing his mentality and just how much he's going to grind, that's got to be a huge motivating factor. So I'm cool with it. They're going to put him at 25, and I would be fine with it because we know he's not that, right? He's not that type of player.
Right. And look, I'm not surprised that he took a step back, right? I'm not surprised. And there's going to be young kids that are going to come up, and who knows what this list looks like during the season next year. But the fact that they dropped him to 17th, I mean, that's a bit much.
Yeah, it is. It's a little excessive, but I just love it because I know it's going to fire him up. And, that's what I want. I want him coming in next season, all right, I'm going to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, and you know what? I think he came into this season fired up. I just think the offensive coordinator and the head coach were a terrible mesh. So hopefully with Kellen Moore, the offense looks better.
Exactly. He's going to have a better offense. We're not going to throw bubble screens 7 times in the fourth quarter when we're at 3rd and 20.
Right. When teams know it's coming too. That's oh god.
Yeah, you see, it's obvious. And then I also want to comment on the LeBron thing.
Yeah.
I want to talk to the person who doesn't want LeBron on the Sixers, because you have to double LeBron and then you have to double Embiid. So it's pick your poison. That's the thing. From a basketball standpoint, there's no downside. And I appreciate the call, Jay. I know there are people that just don't like him. They just don't like him. There's the I love Michael Jordan, not LeBron James people, right? I'm sure something political has happened at some point with LeBron James. People just don't want to. I want to win it I don't want to buy my championship.
The super team haters.
Right.
The Lakers haters. There's a bunch out there.
I just want a damn title, man. And then just haters, period. Right. If somebody's good and they don't play for Philadelphia, you hate them. Right. That's kind of how it goes. And I'm sure the second he comes here and they win a title, people are going to be on Broad Street celebrating it. But until that day happens, like people don't like him for whatever reason. Kirk Cousins, 13th on this list. We haven't even talked about this one that much. Here's the write-up for Cousins. Kirk Cousins was kind of lights out in 2023.
He was, though.
It's easy to forget because the Vikings started out with a hard record, and then Cousins eventually went out for the season with an Achilles injury. However, when he was on the field, the man was balling. The secret for Cousins has always been steady improvement. He gets 3% better every year. Doesn't sound like much, but when you consider Cousins has been starting for almost a decade, that experience and improvement eventually adds up. Well, hold on a second. Like, how many more years of 3% are there left?
That only gets him to 30%. He's got more to go.
Like, he doesn't, like, whatever. Cousins is one of the league's best clean pocket throwers and has improved immensely in his ability to throw under duress. He remains a dominant play-action passer, but has also grown to handle true drop-back passing better than in years past. There will always be a limit to what Cousins can be, but he's a quality quarterback who can thrive under the right conditions. So there's always a limit, which is what they themselves just said. Jalen Hurts is a higher ceiling than Kirk Cousins.
100%.
Let me read you what they said about Purdy, because Purdy's behind Hurts. Brock Purdy is fine. Nothing more, nothing less. It's not a crime to be just okay. We don't need to prop Purdy up as more than he is. It's easy to get wrapped up in propping up Purdy because he's the best quarterback Kyle Shanahan has had in San Francisco. That part is definitely true. Purdy is about as accurate as Jimmy Garoppolo was, but much more aggressive outside the numbers, down the field and outside the pocket. There's a flair to Purdy's game that helps keep this offense burning bright. At the same time, Purdy's a quarterback with modest size and an average arm. That hurts him when the pocket condenses. Purdy's major benefit as a creator is also relative to other Shanahan quarterbacks in this offense, not to the elite quarterbacks. Purdy can play, and it feels obvious he will be around for a while. We just do not need to put him on a pedestal. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything. It's actually a great list if you just consider that one entry.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go to Don in South Philly. What's up, Don?
How you doing, boss?
Hey, Don.
Yeah, I think if the Philadelphia Sixers get LeBron James and he stay here for 3 years, we'll win every year. I don't understand who don't want him on our team.
I don't even know if it'll be 3 years. It'll be one, maybe two. But even if it's one championship, one is more than zero, and you haven't had one in 40 years.
And we ain't got nothing coming no time soon.
Right.
Unless we get somebody like that.
Right. I mean, look, they with Joel Embiid, they'll forever be contenders as long as they have the right pieces around them. All I know is LeBron James comes in here. He's got a winning attitude. He's got a culture. He's still very talented. He's averaging 25, 7, and 8 this year. I mean, it's not like he's cooked, right? Like he's coming in here and he's still playing.
He might come next year because it'd be the first player to ever do it on 4 different teams. Robert Horry did it on 3 teams.
Hey, and why not? Why not here? I mean, you got a talented roster here. They got the money, and then hopefully they can get Bronny. All right, draft him early. I don't care. Bring LeBron here, man. Why not?
Bring him in. Yep.
That's awesome. I appreciate the call, Don. Thanks, man. The number to climb in is 610-632-0975. Joining us momentarily, we'll be joined by Ramona Shelburne, which is what started all this. So I'll read the blurb one more time for you guys as Connor is calling Ramona up. This was in ESPN.com. She and Adrian Wojnarowski put this story together. They got into the conversation about LeBron James. After seeing James's murky social media post of an hourglass a week before the trade deadline, Philadelphia 76ers president of basketball operations, Daryl Morey, called Pelinka to probe on a James trade and was immediately told that James wasn't available. In fact, Pelinka responded by asking Morey if Joel Embiid was available, sources said, and that ended that brief conversation. These sorts of bold trade calls are historically a common practice for Morey, who also called the Phoenix Suns and asked about a trade for Durant prior to the deadline, sources said. When told no on Durant, Morey then asked about the availability of Devin Booker and Bradley Beal too. Unsurprisingly, those were no's as well, sources said. But hey, it's Sports Talk Radio, so we get to have some fun with stuff. So joining us right now on the Comcast Business Hotline from ESPN, Ramona Shelburne. Ramona, how you doing today? Thanks for coming on.
Good. How are you guys doing?
All right, so look, I understand it was quickly shot down, right? Quickly shot down, unless I guess Joel Embiid was on the table. But I can't help but also look to the future about this because LeBron the Philly has been a talking point for almost a decade now. Remember, before he signed with the Lakers, the Sixers were in it. There was that meeting with Rich Paul that never ended up actually happening. Like LeBron never showed up. What are the chances? I'll start off with this, that down the line, he's got a player option next year. We know that Bronny's in college at this point. that LeBron could be on the move out of L.A. before I even get to the Sixers, out of L.A.?
I mean, my sense is LeBron wants to stay in L.A., that he's happy here, he's settled here, his family's here. He has other children in high school here, and I think his daughter's not quite in high school yet, but like he's settled here, right? And so that's the basis for all this, But I think a lot of this started with the tweet, right? The hourglass tweet, and up against the trade deadline. There's comments after each post game where there's a sort of everybody do your job comment, and then there's a few sort of LeBron uneasy post game comments that people around the league take note of, and it's a bit of a yearly tradition, right, around the trade deadline time for LeBron to put pressure on an organization or let you know exactly how he's feeling about the current team and their chances. And so I think there's teams around the league that they're all going to hear this. They're all going to listen to it and then react accordingly. And I think it's, if you're doing your job as a GM, you hear a star player like that make a comment and you make the call. Most of the time you're going to get what Daryl Morey got, right? Which was, is LeBron available? Is Joel Embiid available, right? And the conversation ends quickly. But that's a due diligence call, but it's also a reflection on when LeBron says things like that. You got to be doing your job to make that call, right? And you got to be aggressive. And I think there's only a few. I mean, we know of at least these two. I don't know if others called, but it takes a bit of chutzpah to do that, to call about LeBron James, right? It takes a bit of chutzpah. But it's also, when the Bucks traded for Damian Lillard, I wrote a story on this at the beginning of the year. They told me we've called about Damian Lillard every year, a couple times a year for 5 years, and almost every single time they called, they were sort of go away, no, we're never trading Dame, go away, right? But they were calling to register interest, and then the winds shifted, and then Dame was available. So you just never know where these things land, right? You don't.
Right.
What's the line? You don't know unless you ask.
Right. Exactly. Now I'll ask you, because you said he's he might be settled, he's comfortable. What's your sense? Is he more comfortable being in L.A. with the chance that he doesn't win again? Or is he still a little uncomfortable that he would like to get another ring at some point?
I think that is something only LeBron James will ever answer.
Okay.
Right? And we will see that through his actions and words. But all you have to go on, this is all anybody has to go on are his actions and words, right? I don't care what sourcing you have on anybody telling you what he wants for his future, et cetera, right? It doesn't matter. For him to make that kind of a move, there's probably only 3 people in the world who will know, and where he really is. And he may not even know right now. I can tell you right now, his intention is to stay in LA. He likes it here. There's a commitment level that he's made to the Lakers and their franchise. This was an open door, right? This is a quick flight from LA to San Francisco, and the answer came back, he wants to stay in LA. Okay. So there's one gauge, but ask again in 6 months.
Right.
Ask again when Bronny's in the draft. Ask again if some other team drafts him. So it's far-fetched, it's unrealistic, and yet you don't know unless you ask.
Right, absolutely. And the reason why we even talk about it is not just because Daryl Morey made the phone call, right? Like it also makes sense because next year, based off of what they did with the deadline, based off of the new CBA agreements, based off of Tobias Harris is going to be off the books in terms of a max player next year. Like, it does make sense financially and roster-wise for the Sixers because when you look at it, they have 2 guys under contract right now for next year. It's Joel Embiid and Paul Reed with the idea that Tyrese Maxey will get the max at some point. But it would make sense basketball-wise and also contract-wise and financially that LeBron could be a fit in Philadelphia.
I mean, it's the open-ended question that everyone in the NBA has to be asking. So I think there's a few of them, right? There's Giannis's future if the Bucks don't kind of come together this year. I know he signed extensions, but LeBron has a player option, and whether or not he stays long term in LA, it's like, let's see how the rest of the season goes. Let's see what happens with Bronny. Like, he's going to have to ask himself that question. A lot of times, superstars at the end of their career, they get to this stage. Kobe Bryant got to this stage where the team around them is not good enough, right? Like Kobe, the team Kobe played with the last 3 or 4 years of his career, not good enough to win. Just wasn't. They traded Pau Gasol. They kind of had a bunch of there was a youth movement there. They had young guys who were not even close to being able to win, and he had to choose: do I want to retire as a Laker, do 20 seasons as a Laker, or do I want to go chase a ring elsewhere? Kobe didn't leave. Kobe stayed. He was a forever Laker. LeBron has left places before when the resources run out, and so I think that it just makes this summer all that much more interesting because there's teams like Philly, there's teams like New York that have not only the assets to be interesting for anybody who would discuss a deal, but also the cap space.
Now
they'll have money.
They sure will, and a lot of that is because of what they did this past offseason, moving on from James Harden at the beginning of the season, of course, with the deadline. So let's talk present day Sixers, Ramona. Speaking of Ramona Shelburne on the Comcast Business Hotline, what did you make of the Sixers leading up to the deadline and post deadline, and how they look so far without the big man, of course, and we'll get to that at some point.
I think they have an objective to keep their salary cap space for the same way they did with Harden. Like, we're not going to trade Harden unless we get the deal we want, right? Unless we get enough back. And they held that line, and I think they did a good job at the deadline of adding to the team. I know they would have liked to add a backup big man. With Joel out, it would be nice to have somebody else in the front court to sort of hold it down, give them some more options during the season. I think they're just the whole season for them comes down to, can he come back? And if he can come back, what level is he going to be at? And, if you have Joel Embiid playing, if he's healthy for the playoffs, if he's enough of himself healthy, then you have a chance at winning. If he's a shell of himself, if he's still hurt, then I think you just kind of kick the ball down the road and try again next year. But I think they did a good job of at least fortifying their team for some kind of a run if he's able to come back. And now they just have to tread water and stay high enough in the standings to make it worth it.
Have you heard about Embiid at all, how he's doing? Not physically, because obviously, look, he's going to be reevaluated, right, in about 3 weeks from now. But this has got to be tough for him. I mean, he's having another MVP-type season. Obviously, we didn't know if he was going to even qualify because of the amount of games played. But another year, and now he's absent for another month, maybe 2, maybe for the rest of the season. We don't know. How is Joel Embiid holding up?
I think this is a really tough one. I think it's really deflating to have this happen. But I think he was in a really tough situation even before the injury where Kuminga falls at his knee, because that knee wasn't right. I mean, as you could tell, you could see him moving in that game. He didn't play in the Denver game. Nobody wants to acknowledge this, but it's not like he really wanted to play in that Denver game. This was something you could see even days later. He wasn't moving very well, and in that Denver game he could barely jump. That knee was not right to begin with, and I think the rest from this, this is just forcing him to sit out and rest and get the knee right. That knee, if you didn't have the 65 games, if they didn't just absolutely need him to win games, I think he was out there playing on that knee when really he should have been resting it, right? He should have been getting that knee right, but he was out there playing because they flat out need him, right? You see it when he's not on the court. I mean, I think their record at that point when he wasn't there was 3-10 or something. I can't remember exactly what it was back then, but it was something where he knew his team needed him to be out there, and he was giving it a shot, right? Whether he's 100% or 50%, he was going to give it a shot. And so, look, now you're forced to rest. Now you're forced to get that knee right. Now the 65 games off the table, and now you just have to hope everyone else can hold it down. And it's a bummer. I mean, I know it sounds like a really sophisticated analysis, right? But it's really a downer for him because he's fought so hard to just play with it and through it. And I think it's now it's just the decision was made for him.
Yeah, it's been a bummer. Trust us, we're all living in misery as we're, it's another year of it, unfortunately. And for the most part, people just want him to be healthy just because we know how good he is. And it stinks that this happened again. Ramona, listen, I appreciate you taking the time today. It's been a lot of fun. We've been talking about the article all day today, so thank you for that.
Why not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny writing a story like this, right? Because you're like, it didn't happen these were real conversations, and I think like the imaginary world of the NBA of like all these sliding door moments of like this wasn't out of thin air. Like these are real calls that were made and real possibilities.
Right, like you said, it's not like he hasn't left before, right? He hasn't left before, and he wouldn't be the first star to move again. I mean, look at James Harden. We saw this is his fifth team in 5 years.
Yeah, I mean games every year, right? I mean, it's sort of, but I think with LeBron, like I do really think his intention is to stay in LA, but you get down to that choice every single year, especially when you do have a choice, because he has a player option of, okay, how important is it for you to stay in LA versus how important is it for you to be in the absolute best place to have a chance to win a championship? I think on the Warriors side, it's just a fascinating possibility, but they felt really strongly like if they got LeBron, they would win.
Right.
This year, like he's good enough still that if he was dissatisfied, like why not make that call? And I think it's a fun sliding doors moment in the NBA.
And it is every single day. And that's why we keep on following you, all the work you do. We watch the stuff that you do on ESPN. Thank you so much for coming on today, Ramona. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
There she is, Ramona Shelburne on the Comcast Business Hotline. Oh, the dream might be, well, like she said, anything can happen.
How much does he really like his kids? Like, come on, LeBron, it's a little vacation. Let them hang out in L.A. and you could come play here, and Bronny will be here soon.
And look, they've never gotten to know the great Northeast.
That's true.
Yeah, Cleveland's Cleveland and Miami, right? They live pretty, and they leave pretty in L.A.
I'll tell you what, he's only
about the great Northeast.
He's only ever visited. He's probably never even had one of the good steaks. He probably goes to the tourist traps. Like, there's so much you don't know
how
LeBron.
I feel about that. Every cheesesteak's good, and you're ridiculous if you don't think that's true. Every cheesesteak's good. They all taste differently. They're all good.
That's a conversation for another day.
I've had it a million times on the show. Every cheesesteak's good. You're ridiculous to be so passionate about one specific spot. That's my input on that.
I like what I like.
As a guy that's been eating cheesesteaks from every joint that there is, like, come on, man. Enough with the that one stinks. That one's for tourists. You know what? 2 o'clock in the morning, it hits. 610-632-0975. It's the number to climb in. We got one segment left. The best show ever will be coming your way at 2 o'clock. So we'll get back to everything that we've talked about today and then tie a bow on the show. I'll replay some of the clips that I played in the beginning of the show just to sort of tell you where the Eagles are at when it comes to the rebuilding or retooling strategy. We have a local report on it and an insight from it from a national perspective. So we'll play those clips for you next right here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
starting at 2. Now more with Andrew Salchunas on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
122, 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show. Final segment of the program. We got the best show ever coming your way at 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock hour. Brought to us by Ferguson HVAC Line Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job. Visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Bensalem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. Before I get back to everything that we've been talking about today, I just watched a clip during the break from the latest New Heights podcast, because obviously Travis Kelce, winner of the Super Bowl, alongside his Chiefs teammates, they talked about the decision of the 49ers to take the ball to start overtime. And now, look, it's easy for Travis Kelce to talk about it because they won, but Kelce said that they basically celebrated immediately. Apparently, the referee, according to Travis Kelce, turned and looked at the member of the 49ers that said, "We want the ball," and said, Are you sure? And Jason, who's obviously on the podcast, Jason Kelce, apparently was texting Sirianni during it and was like, "Oh my God, can you believe?" Like everybody was in shock that it happened. Now, as the 49ers lose and we continue to celebrate it, more and more like turmoil is coming out. And I can't get enough of it because I absolutely hate that team and I hate the fans and everything about San Francisco. So a couple of things that I want to get to. First, Mike Florio put out, shame on me, I didn't watch the Kyle Shanahan press conference following their loss to the Super Bowl, not just the actual post-game, but the exit interview press conference. He was asked about Steve Wilks. Now, Steve Wilks is the defensive coordinator and did a tremendous job this year. Could 49ers defensive coordinator Steve Wilks be in jeopardy? When asked about Wilks on Tuesday, Coach Kyle Shanahan didn't exactly provide a clear and unequivocal response. How is he going to be the guy that takes the fall? Mahomes did not play well.
No.
They did a great job. And, oh, by the way, he lost his linebacker, Dre Greenlaw, running onto the field. How is Wilks going to be the guy that takes the fall? I don't think anyone should take the fall. San Francisco's a good football team. I know we hate them. They're a good football team.
Right.
Nobody should take the fall.
But if someone's got to wear it, it should probably be the head coach for not having the team prepared for an overtime scenario.
Right. Now, he's not going to get fired, but, he should be it shouldn't be yeah, we'll see about Steve Wilks what did he do wrong? So that's number one. Number two, the Brandon Aiyuk saga continues. So we were on the air, Ray and I, when it came out, his girlfriend was dropping an eerie line about how they might leave. And then his brother was all over Instagram saying stuff like, how could you not give the ball to the guy that had 1,300 yards receiving? How could you only have 3 catches in the Super Bowl? He said at one point, this is why we're leaving. He mentioned back to Vegas or BA to Vegas, Brandon Aiyuk to Vegas. I guess maybe they want to play for the Raiders or something.
Oh, yeah, that's a storied franchise.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where he's from. I don't know where Brandon Aiyuk hails from.
Buddy, if I was from Cleveland, I'm not playing for the Browns.
So now all of a sudden he talks in his exit interview and he's asked hey, do you see yourself back with the 49ers? And his answer is basically, if it makes sense. He didn't give any sort of ring endorsement about return to San Francisco. So he was wearing the shades the whole time, right? Oh, it's just crazy. And now we have teammate on teammate crime.
I saw this.
So Joe Feliciano, who, by the way, is, I don't know what the deal is between him and Jalen Carter, man. This guy doesn't seem like a good dude, but if he's telling, who knows what was said on the line of scrimmage between Feliciano and Jalen Carter. What I do know is what's public is social media. Right? I don't know who said, he said, she said, right? At the line of scrimmage. I don't know. We don't have a mic there. I do know that there are times where guys are mic'd up, and there are times where it's called the red tape. They don't allow that stuff to be public. Because as you can imagine, there's inappropriate stuff that is said during a football game, right? Not everything has to make for TV and NFL films. So They were complaining about the play when Chris Jones, the defensive tackle of the Chiefs, broke free on that third down play where Brock Purdy overthrows a receiver. He had a wide open Brandon Aiyuk in the end zone. He didn't even have time to look his way. And people were complaining about how that was the play that turned everything. That's the play that led the Chiefs to winning the Super Bowl. And somebody was pointing out how Colton McKivitz, who is also a lineman on the team for the 49ers, was to blame for it. So Joe Feliciano he goes to his guy's defense, which that's cool, while also knocking down somebody else in the process. So here's the tweet. That's not Colton's guy. A quick chop block is not needed if the guy that was supposed to block Jones blocks him. Right away, his teammate, Spencer Buford, who was the guy that was supposed to block him, responds, "Sheesh, I open up my app to this, ... Get well soon, bro." To which Feliciano responds, "I'm sorry, bro. I woke up hungover and being a bitch. I'm trying to have one's back and I hurt you. It's bleeped up and I apologize. You got nothing but greatness ahead of you." So imagine, like, you just lost the Super Bowl, man. And I'm sure he realizes that he made a mistake. So he's probably down in the dumps, right?
Yeah.
And he opens up Twitter already expecting getting crushed because, everybody's, those evil Eagles fans. No, it's evil sports fans, period. Like, let's face it, there's evil sports fans out there. Philadelphia's not the worst. Every city's got terrible people, and they hide behind fake names and fake pictures, and they say awful things, and unfortunately, sometimes it gets to death threats. Like, it's terrible, right? So he's probably already expecting to read some nasty things sent his way. But his own teammate is throwing him under the bus like, "Oh, no, it wasn't Colton's fault. It was the guy who was supposed to block him's fault." I love it. I love how it's just crumbling for them.
And in Feliciano's defense, I mean, I've said some things to my buddies hungover before that haven't gone over well. I mean, it happens. You had a couple too many. You were sad about losing the Super Bowl. Next thing you know, your head hurts and it's his fault.
You've said something to your buddies before.
No, I'm kidding.
You've said something to your buddies before in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
Sometimes we say things we don't mean in the middle of, in the heat of a conversation. He's on the phone. He's tweeting.
Yeah.
He's got Twitter muscles ripping one of his teammates. Like, I just love this. Ayuk's all upset, right? Debo's probably, God forbid, what's going on with him. And now you got this where you got lineman on lineman beef on the same team.
It's great.
I can't get enough of it. I love watching this team crumble. I enjoy it.
Expect anything different? Like, this is what they did last year when they lost to the Eagles. We knew there was going to be fallout this year if they didn't win it all, and here it comes again.
Yeah, and it's just amazing that, all the Niners fans that were like, "Oh, my God, these Eagles fans are all in our mentions." Well, you guys did the same thing. No, the players were the annoying ones, too.
Yeah.
And now they're going after each other, which is just tremendous. I can't get enough of it. All right, so before I get everything back, I got a little nugget for you. I credit Matt Gelb for tweeting it out. Zach Wheeler, he pitched today.
Nice.
And first time probably threw 20 pitches, probably all fastballs, right? Zach Wheeler, according to Wheeler, and the Phillies have started negotiations on a potential contract extension. Wheeler said it's early in the process. He was asked, can it happen before spring ends? And he says, quote, "Hopefully it does. I love it here. We're happy here."
Wow.
So he's entering his final season, right?
Yes, he is.
And they just went through that with Aaron Nola. Zach Wheeler's a better pitcher than Aaron Nola, so, you don't want – not that Nola – look, Nola got big money offered from Atlanta, more money, right? Wasn't it a report that Atlanta offered more money, but he wanted to stay in Philadelphia, which, we appreciate that. You don't want Wheeler going on the open market.
No, you don't. Even, that's the thing. There's an argument to be made that he is the most valuable pitcher in baseball because of what he does in the postseason. If you're a contending team, you got to pay that guy $400 million. Maybe not at this point in his career, but I could see someone bidding him up so the Phillies don't keep him.
Right, and you don't want to do that. You just want get this done. This is one. I was cool with Nola not being done before the season started. This one,
take care of.
I'll be scared.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'd be legitimate worried. Even though he's saying all the right things, he loves it here, wants to be here. Like, you never know. If a team offers, like you said, $400 million.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden you go, oh, well, can set like 3 generations down the line up with this kind of contract. Yeah, I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
So,
I like you here. If someone's going to pay me $1 billion to move to Minneapolis to talk about the Twins,
you'll take
cut the check.
Hey, you'll take it. Yeah,
No.
why not? Go for it, man. Go for the big bucks.
I don't think $1 billion's coming my way anytime soon.
So that's your latest on Zach Wheeler as pitchers and catchers officially reported today to Clearwater. I love all the pictures, all the sights and sounds of Clearwater. Maybe heading down soon.
Ooh.
So I'm very excited for that one.
You got room in your luggage for a stowaway?
I don't check my bag. I just
you don't check your bag so I can hide in there.
I get off the plane right away, man. I go duffel bag. It's 3 days. What else do I need? Like, do you really need to check a bag for 3 days?
No, I went down to Tampa a couple weeks ago. I just brought a backpack.
Yeah, I don't need much more. I'm the very, very simple man. Very simple man. All right, so here's what we did on the show today. We'll start by resetting what we did with the Eagles, because today ended up becoming a big Sixers LeBron day, which is why we had Ramona Shelburne on. I'll explain why momentarily. But what we started the show talking about was your faith level in Howie Roseman. Because ultimately, no matter what direction they choose to go in, you have to see whether or not you have faith in Howie. And the direction is defense, right? Like, offensively, you're still set. Jalen Hurts, despite this ridiculous ranking of him 17th on this ridiculous list that I'll go through again before we get out of here. There's a quarterback ranking list that has Hurts at 17, which is ridiculous. But forget that for a second. You have Jalen Hurts. You have A.J. Brown. I still don't believe he's going anywhere. You have Devontae Smith. You have Dallas Goedert. Offensive line, there's going to be questions if Jason Kelce ends up retiring. Cam Jurgens obviously slides over to center, but what are you going to do at right guard? Tyler Steen looked like he could have been that guy, but Steen didn't even dress toward the end of the season. They're going to have to draft eventually a right tackle of the future to replace Lane Johnson. So you can do one of those, let's draft a right tackle, play him at right guard, get him on the field, and then eventually he makes the switch over. Or, as we've seen in football before, you draft the future replacement, and then he gets so good at right guard. Like, wasn't Landon Dickerson a center?
Yes, he was. He was supposed to be Kelsey's replacement.
Right. Now he's staying at left guard because of how good he was, right? Like, that's not – same with Isaac Seumalo.
Yep.
Right? So, like, that happens in football all the time. So, they'll probably draft a right tackle, play him at right guard, and then who knows, down the road he might stay at right guard, and then he draft another right tackle. But, you know, the offense is pretty much set. You're going to need a right guard. You're going to need a third wide receiver. You might want to get depth at tight end. And you need a starting running back because it can't be Kenneth Gainwell. But all these moves aren't, like, the biggest move of the offseason. The biggest move of the offseason happens on the defense. And earlier this week, Ray and I had the debate, and I got into it with Connor today as well, about how you want them to approach the offseason with the defense. Do you want them to swing for the fences, go all out because your Super Bowl window is still open, at least from the offensive side of the ball? And if you go big, you make some big trades, you make some big signings, and you keep all of a sudden you have a talented defense, even though you might not be great 4 or 5 years from now, you're going for a Super Bowl right now. You know, there's one way of doing it. And if that's your approach, do you trust Howie Roseman in doing it? And Connor, you say yes. And I agree with you. If that's the approach, because it's worked before.
Right.
Like, I can't not trust Howie Roseman because he has won a Super Bowl and has gotten you back to another one.
It's the same thing with the Hurts conversation, right? Not to take this too sideways, but he's been there before. He's been good enough before. If your question is consistency, absolutely. That's a fair question for Hurts, for Roseman, for this organization. But if the question is, can they do it? Can Howie Roseman have one of these offseasons where he builds a contender? He's done it twice.
Right.
So, yes, he can.
Yes, he can. But then the question is that what you want them to do? Think about sustainability. Because for me, my answer was I wanted them to take the patient approach. Like, I wanted them to go with a youth movement. And hopefully you can build some sort of defense. Look, you got Vic Fangio, right? You got the big defensive coordinator that they've been dying to get, right? So you bring him in here. It's not like Hassan Reddick's going to seek a trade, right?
Yeah.
Because the Eagles are forcing him out. Doesn't mean that they're going to go with a complete 11-man youth movement. They'll probably make a trade for somebody. They're going to sign somebody to a lucrative deal, I imagine. But then the rest of it might be, all right, youth, let's see what we got out of the guys that are here now, and Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, Keely Ringo. Maybe you draft another corner of the future because Darius Slay's not going to be here for the rest of his life, right? James Bradbury might get cut this offseason. So you're going to need to draft corner. You need to figure out safety because I don't think Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown when healthy is the answer for you. You might need to find a better option via the draft at some point, but then that leads to, do I have faith in Howie Roseman to do that? Because they haven't necessarily done it all that well. So I know my answer of I want them to be patient and go with the youth movement isn't necessarily guaranteeing me anything.
Right. The other thing is if you do go with the youth movement, by the time that those players are coming up for their first contract extension, you're getting a much bigger cap hit from Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
So that makes it much more difficult to keep consistency even that way. Like the way you'd have to do it your way, you'd have to hope you're the Kansas City Chiefs. One, Hurts is good enough to win with trash cans at wide receiver.
Right.
Two, you're going to have to hit on a lot of young players on that defensive side of the ball that can be difference makers to make your defense good enough to carry the team. It can happen. Kansas City just did it 2 years in a row. But
they have Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly.
And Andy Reid, which that's a big part of it. That's a big factor, right? The Eagles don't have Andy Reid. And they don't have Steve Spagnuolo, who signed an extension today, by the way. I mean, they got Vic Fangio, but I'm not in love with the Vic Fangio scheme.
No,
I'm not. Ray gave the best answer, right? So we were talking about when they first brought him in, right? Ray's like, you know what? I'm excited for Vic Fangio for two reasons. One, it could end up being great. They got the guy who they coveted. They got the guy who this is the organizational philosophy. It's the guy. It's the godfather of the philosophy. Or it doesn't work, and now you realize this philosophy sucks, and you need somebody else.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, it pretty much is at this point. So, yeah, I mean, look, that's another big factor for Kansas City is the fact that they have a legit coaching staff, too. We didn't play this earlier. Hassan Reddick, obviously seeking a trade. The wording of it was amazing on Sunday when the Eagles spun it as if it seemed like Hassan Reddick wanted it out. He eventually comes out on Twitter after Jordan Schultz reported that Hassan never wanted out. He wants to stay here. Well, we did get a bit of an update earlier this morning from Ian Rappaport. Take a listen.
Yeah, Hassan Reddick, if you remember, we reported on Super Bowl morning that Hassan Reddick had received permission to seek a trade. That is my understanding. It is still my understanding, despite the fact that Hassan Reddick made his first public comment since that report today and said, quote, never asked for a trade. It's a business preparing for what's next. So let me explain what is going on here. What Hassan Reddick wants, or what Hassan Reddick means, is he wants to be a member of the Philadelphia Eagles. What he wants to deliver to fans is that he doesn't want to leave the team. That is essentially his message. However, remember, a couple years ago, he signed a 3-year, $45 million free agent contract. That was a great, great deal at the time. He has just, in his mind, outplayed it. 16 sacks, then 11 sacks. He wants a new deal. And for the Philadelphia Eagles, as of right now, it's unclear whether they would be the team to do it. So what his agent, Tory Dandy, now has permission to do is to go out, talk to other teams, and see what is the value for Hassan Reddick. Does that mean he's going to change teams? Possibly. If there's another team willing to pay him more than the Eagles, if the draft pick compensation for Philly would make it worth dealing one of their star pass rushers, certainly a trade could happen. He's one of the better players in the NFL. What he means is that he doesn't want to be traded. He wants a new deal in Philly.
See, I don't want him to go. I haven't got your thoughts on this. I don't want him to go.
No.
But I got to say, it's a total Eagles move to move on from.
Yeah, it would be, and it'd be dumb.
He's the biggest cap hit.
I get it. That'd be dumb. You need to have something you can hang your hat on defensively.
Yeah, and you got nothing.
He's your best defensive player.
Yes. It's not even close.
And you just had a year where the defense was your main issue.
Yeah.
And
now
you're going to say,
get rid of your best player.
All right, buddy, you walk. Give yourself more to rebuild that you don't have right now.
Well, that's the thing. If they do let him walk, right, then how can you go with the swing for the fences offseason approach?
You better hope that Nolan Smith can play. That's the only way it works.
And Jordan Davis takes a leap forward.
Yeah, but interiorly,
Fletcher Cox is gone. Like, think about it. Like, your line, Reddick's gone. If Reddick gets traded, he's gone. Fletcher Cox could retire or might go somewhere else, or he comes back, but who knows? Yeah, now it's Moro Ojomo.
You can't open new holes on this defense. You already have too many to fill. He's got to be back. I don't care about the cap hit.
Right. And if they do trade him, I don't know if you get a player in return. You're probably going to get a pick in return, which, yes, you can maybe use that pick on somewhere else. Like, if it's one of those where if the trade happens, let's say they move on from him, I'm going to be upset. I will give the Eagles the benefit of the doubt and wait to see what then comes of it.
Right. I'm not saying it can't work out.
At the immediate, when it happens immediately, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah, they're just making their job harder for themselves if they move on from Hassan Reddick this year. Like, if they trade him, they've got too many holes to fill. If they felt confident about the rest of their defense and they said, hey, we want to get younger at this position, cheaper at this position, cool. You have to find another cornerback that starts, another safety, maybe two that can start, a whole linebacker core, interior defensive line, and probably an edge rusher, even if Hassan Reddick stays. Like, you can't do all that and then also replace a guy that had double-digit sacks the past 2 years.
No, right now it's like 6 starters probably that you have to replace.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, depending on who you look at as the interior defensive lineman, right? Fletcher Cox started some games. Jordan Davis started some games. I'll count Fletcher Cox as a starter for the sake of the argument, right?
Right.
So it's Fletcher Cox. It's eventually James Bradbury. Sidney Brown to start the season because he's going to be out. 2 linebackers you're going to have to replace. So you're at 5 already.
Right.
And then the question is, like, I remember Jeff McClain does the stay or go piece. He had Maddox go.
Right.
Because you can't depend on him to stay healthy.
Which
that's a 6th starter. And then Hassan Reddick would make it 7.
And that's why you got to keep guys like that. Like, you don't have the luxury of having guys you can depend on. You have to take chances on guys that have been here, so you simply don't have to commit more resources to bringing in new players. That's it. You're hamstrung by the fact that you need to fill so many holes. You can't let Reddick go. You can't let Maddox go. You've already got too much on your plate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a busy offseason, man. It's absolutely a busy offseason, and like you said, it's only going to get worse if you end up trading Hassan Reddick, unless there's a plan in place. All right, the other thing that we got into was this LeBron James nugget. So last night, the story comes out on ESPN.com. Ramona Shelburne, who we had on about 45 minutes ago. You'll be able to hear that again on 97.5 thefanatic.com. I tell you to listen to it because she's tremendous. And we got into more than just LeBron. Trust me. We ended up talking about Embiid, which again I think she. Not that I know, but it seems like she's very close to Joel Embiid, which is why I asked specifically how he's doing. And that was like depressing almost when she's like, yeah, I think this one hurts more than they did before.
Yeah. He's an emotional guy. We know this.
And yeah, of course we do. But this one, like, the dude was playing out of his mind.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It just happens again. And this one wasn't like a 3-week thing. He had to get a procedure done. Right? Like, at some point, you got to think about the guy, too. And it's like, holy hell. Like, oh, God, sucks. But, Ramona wrote a story. It was a post-deadline write-up. And the deadline write-up had the Sixers calling the Lakers because LeBron James posted a tweet a week before the deadline of a Jesus, what the hell is it called?
Hourglass.
Thank you.
They don't use them that much anymore. You're good.
I was thinking sundial. An hourglass where the time was run out. And everyone's going, wait a minute, what the hell? And that same night, I remember that night he didn't dress. So people were going, is he on his way out? And of course, he didn't end up getting traded, but Ramona Shelburne tells the story. And like she said, look, this actually happened. Like, Daryl Morey actually called the Lakers. But most teams don't normally call. And the fact that he called, and then she mentioned the Damian Lillard thing. Like, teams called Damian Lillard. They called Portland for 5 years.
Hey, shoot your shot, King.
The Sixers did.
You never know.
For basically 5 years. And then eventually he gets traded. And, oh, by the way, it wasn't to the team that we all thought he was getting traded to. He goes to Milwaukee. So who knows with the Sixers angle, with Daryl Morey's angle, trying to get to LeBron. I just thought it was fascinating that they even made the phone call, which is great, as he should. Like, you shouldn't not make the phone call. And then it starts making you think, wait, hold on a second. There was that report after before the trade deadline that he might get out of the player option so that he could play with Bronny and blah, blah, blah. And, Ramona made the point, Bronny's not his only kid. Like, he's got other family out in the West Coast. And eventually LeBron might not be in the NBA anymore. And what if Bronny's on the East Coast? Like, he might as well just stay out in L.A. Who knows? We'll see.
But I found that pretty interesting. And then we got into the conversation of why you wouldn't want LeBron James, because there are people that don't want LeBron James. And I really don't understand why. There's not anything that you could tell me that I go, yeah, I agree with you when it comes to a basketball point of view. And even when it comes to a personal point of view, sometimes you got to put pride aside, man. If your team's going to be a championship contender with a guy, that's great. Like, so far, the only, not even logical, but one of the biggest, like, no, I don't want him is the intuition, our man said. He has intuition that LeBron's eventually going to fall off. Well, I don't know. He's averaging 25, 7 and 7 this year. 7.8 assists, so almost 8. It's amazing. Lastly, this was the big one. So the 33rd Team is a website that covers the NFL. And I know a lot of you might not know what that website is, but I'm sure a lot of you saw the graphic. They posted their quarterback ranking yesterday going into the 2024 season, subject to change, of course. I don't know how a preseason will change it when nobody plays in the preseason, but subject to change. Jalen Hurts came in at number 17 on this list, not even top half. He comes in at 17. Yeah, the top, Mahomes number 1, Lamar number 2, Josh Allen number 3. I'm cool with that. I'm not going to debate those 3. Justin Herbert still gets all the love in the world, dude. I think he's a good quarterback, but what has he done to still be considered 4th?
No, he's not he is a good quarterback, but he just looks like he's tall and he's got the hair and he stands in the pocket and he should be good. That's what it is. You could project him to be good. He's not actually that good. He's not. Watch the game.
Well, we'll see with Harbaugh. I thought Brandon Staley was a terrible head coach.
Okay.
So, we'll see with Harbaugh. But I love it, the write-up. Herbert was sensational for most of the season, save for a couple of blips, like the Dallas game. Herbert remains the prototype.
That's what it is.
He's the prototype when you consider his size, arm talent, pocket presence, decision-making, and accuracy. Then you might as well put Carson Wentz on there.
He'd look great if he was, like, modeling Under Armour gear for a quarterback. Like, that's it, Nike gear for a quarterback. Actually playing the position, evaluate that.
It hasn't been great. So that's 4. Stafford is 5. Dak 6. Stroud 7. Trevor Lawrence 8th is ridiculous. Like, come on, guys. You're going to put Trevor Lawrence as a top 10 quarterback in this league. Burrow's at 9. Jordan Love at 10. Kyler Murray's at 11. And then Geno Smith's at 12. I'm not even at Hurts. Hurts at 17. Kirk Cousins is 13th. Goff is 14th. And Goff had a tremendous season. So I can't,
Right, I can get that.
I'm fine. But, my God. And then Rodgers is at 15.
He had a good year.
Yeah, he had a great year. God, unbelievable. And then Anthony Richardson, that's the other one. Anthony Richardson's ahead of Jalen Hurts. Like, they're projecting, which is fine, but they're also basing things off of previous things. Like, that was the entire write-up for Jalen Hurts was based off of what he did last year.
Yeah, well, you got to respect it. They're using their intuition.
Yeah, they're using their intuition. It's unbelievable.
It's just doesn't make sense.
And so, yeah, Anthony Richardson comes in at number 16. So, there's that. Okay. So that'll do it for today. Connor Thomas, you got a big date tonight? Valentine's?
Nope. Not at all. I'm going to go home and talk about the Phillies on a podcast.
There you go. We'll be checking that out. It's a big day for you. It's pitchers and catchers reporting.
That's
man.
my holiday.
Yeah, exactly. That's my holiday too. I agree with you. And Ash Wednesday. Ash Wednesday's today. So you're the 3-peat today. Ash Wednesday, Valentine's Day, and pitchers and catchers report today. You could pick whatever order you celebrate. Yeah, you do you. Best show ever. They're coming your way next at 2:00. So make sure you check that out. A big day for Ricky Bo, Valentine's Day.
Oh, he loves it.
Yeah, Ricky Batalico, big Valentine's Day guy. We all got into the spirit to celebrate with him today because we know how much he loves the holiday. So make sure you're listening at 2:00 because love will be in the air when Ricky Batalico jumps on these airwaves. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Connor, thank you for filling in today. I really appreciate it.